issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions do apply. See terms. Sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air is now open in Omaha, and we are looking for experienced plumbers and HVAC technicians to join our team. We offer company-paid employee health insurance, provide a company truck with innovative technology, and so much more. We will have open interviews Mondays and Wednesdays at our new location, 9321 J Street. Learn more at calljh.com/careers or call
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
1620 The Zone.
Ashworth still working, drops one down underneath. Here's a shot by Shireman. It's good, and count the basket. Baylor Shireman creating in the paint. Now to Baylor. Baylor step back three on the way. Too strong. Tip out. Long tip out. Comes to Ashworth. Jays get a break. Now into the front court. Here is Alexander. No reset on the shot clock. 14 left on the possession. Alexander all the way through the paint. Deep loop. Scoop layup is good. Through contact. He's looking. Goes cross court to Bello. Bello back to Shireman. Shireman now looks inside. Here's a lob. Kalkbrenner jam. Off the zone defense, and the Jays break it down perfectly. The lob to Big Ryan. He's got back-to-back buckets off the assist from Francisco, and it's 51-33. Up ahead, quick pass into the front court. Alexander explodes to the rack, lays it up and in, and a timeout by Georgetown. And that looks like Creighton basketball. Quick pass into the front court, and Trey all the way into the 10, layup good. And no, but Fred King gets another possession. He gives it to Trey. Trey will go to the rack. Trey will lay it up and score. That's back-to-back offensive rebounds. And that will wrap things up. Jays will dribble out the final 10 seconds. Ed Cooley with arms crossed. He'll be met by his good friend Greg McDermott. They'll exchange pleasantries as they always do. And that'll do it. Final score from Washington. Creighton defeats Georgetown 77-60 on the strength of a 49-point second half.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
I just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine.
All right, great. They won by 17. You can all exhale after a night in D.C.
All is well. All is well.
She hit a friggin' shot from the beak, boys.
Yeah.
She hit a shot from the beak. Where's that highlight?
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a Wednesday where, man, I think this. So last night, Creighton won. We'll get into what they did against Georgetown as we welcome into the show on a Happy New Year. We have until Sunday to continue to say that, according to Larry David.
All week.
So Creighton took care of business. We'll talk about the first half, second half. We got Matt DeMarinis a little bit later. But last night was a good night of ball. So it's the 2nd of January. I was at the Metro Holiday Tournament. The finals are there tonight. We got a good day of ball today. Creighton women, Omaha men, Nebraska men are all in action. Last night you got the Creighton game, which I was following while I was at prep. I was following along on my phone. And I was like, ooh, 28-24. Well, that could be an interesting show tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was different in the second half. So we'll get into the difference between the first and second half. But last night was a great night for ball, whether it be in the NBA. We got a high-level game, Oklahoma City and Boston. Great game. You got a Zach Edey show. Illinois dominated Northwestern. Colorado State is going to get Nico Medved run out of town because he's going to go to a job at a Power 5 school because Colorado State won again last night. But the story is, and I don't know, like she's normalized things. So Caitlin Clark last night against Michigan State, and that was a really, really good game. That was enough to get me when I got home to watch about the last 5 minutes on Peacock because it was a really high-level women's basketball game. Iowa City, 8 o'clock Tuesday night, sold out. Sold out. I mean, the whole season is sold out. But as the game goes back and forth, Caitlin Clark hits a shot at the buzzer on her 34th field goal attempt to get to 40, a 40-burger from the beak on the logo to win the game. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. And I like all the shots that are being shared of still photography. But she's like normalized things. Like I almost expect that. If it wouldn't have gone in, I would have been like, whoa.
Turning the extraordinary into ordinary.
Yeah, we haven't seen, especially in the women's game. Well, definitely in the women's game. We have never seen anything like Caitlin Clark. She had a 40-foot shot last night at the buzzer. And after the initial, oh my gosh, you're like, it's Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Like you had the Indiana game last year where she did pretty much the exact same thing. She is, you're right. She's must watch, but there's just now there's that presence of her too. And I remember last year we were talking about when Nebraska was trying to sell out PBA for that game and, boo Caitlin Clark and how she kind of has a little bit of that edge to her and that cockiness to her. And, there's that moment in the game where, she gets a huge block as well, but she just kind of has that, geez, it's going to be a fun day. She has that presence where when she hits those types of shots, there's that swagger too, and then there's, putting the hand up to the ear and going over to the crowd. And it's something we haven't seen it that much. When it comes to what she is bringing to not just the sport of basketball, but to women's sports too, where it's cool to have that cockiness. It's cool to kind of have a little bit of that swagger because she has more than earned those moments. That was the first thing I'm watching is her running over the crowd, hand up to the ear, and then just kind of smile and everything. But you're right. It's like kind of like Steph Curry effect. In that moment, if she misses that shot, you're like, well, that's not right. She is now put every college basketball fan, as far as anybody who follows Iowa women, or just you've now been drawn into Caitlin Clark in those moments where it's must see. You know what's going to happen, and by the way, must see.
Curry had 35 last night. Right. So she, I mean, I watch her and I like watching her play. She is something that you brought up. If you challenge her, if you get up on her or you chirp at her or anything, it makes her stronger.
It does.
I know there's just a very few sample of athletes that's all they need.
Mm-hmm.
You think you can chirp at them and throw them off their game, and that just takes them to a whole nother level. And that's exactly what she does. That's another part of the greatness of Caitlin Clark. But she has done something, and I don't know, I think she knows how powerful she is. She's in a lot of commercials. She is the most recognizable face in the history of women's college basketball.
No doubt.
I'm not going to back down from that. She single-handedly has brought people into the game. They might just watch her. Maybe they just watch Iowa. I don't know. But she has so much power, even more so. Look at, she could be the number 1 overall pick in the WNBA draft. Indiana has the pick. She could change that franchise forever. I don't know much about the Indiana Fever. I don't know how good they've been or how bad they've been. They have to be bad. They got the number 1 pick. But she could single-handedly change on and off the floor the scope of that franchise. We just have never in the women's game seen anything like her. And you could maybe even say the game of college basketball with the impact that she has on and off the floor. People are going to watch her play from many, many miles away, or will watch on TV.
Yeah. And and that's where I appreciate that type. And we can talk about male athletes that way, female athletes that way too. But when you have that type of appeal, I mean, how many people? We'll go back to last year. How many people outside of the Iowa Hawkeye fan base was glued into Iowa women's basketball? Very little.
No, people knew about her last year.
Starting to build, though.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
Not to the NCAA tournament, but she was known. It's not like
Right.
she didn't just pop on the screen.
And I bring up that Indiana game because I remember I was at the Crescent Moon of all places and having lunch with some friends, and we kind of stopped what we were doing. That game was on, and we're watching like the last 10 minutes of it. I can't recall any time that, unless it was, Creighton or Nebraska playing in like a high leverage game, that we kind of like stopped our conversation and we're just glued to that moment and glued to the final moments of that game. And then she delivers. It's only become more of a cult like following because it's just taken sports by storm of how truly different she is. And what was kind of a moment last year too. You mentioned the players and athletes that we celebrate that can really be challenged, and all of a sudden it's kind of winning time for them. That was that one rare moment in the national championship game where Angel Reese kind of puts it in her face a little bit, where she wasn't able to best them. She kind of ran out of the magic because of what, how good LSU was. But then there's a lot of people that I think are clamoring, boy, I'd love to see that rematch, come March or in April. I'd love to see that happen again. And so you now have people that I think are kind of already looking ahead when it comes to the women's college basketball tournament, looking ahead and to see not only how far Iowa can go, but how far Caitlin Clark can be in March. And honestly, Gary, I can't think of a time that I've looked ahead to the women's college basketball tournament and really want to see just an individual be part of that to the very end.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what, and again, that's what, it's so rare. I mean, I know that there's a lot of women's college basketball fans out there that are probably like, they find the best player that year and, they follow them on top of, following whoever their team is. But this goes beyond that. I mean, this goes to just average sports fans, guys, women, whoever, kids, boys or girls that all know who number 22 is. I was at Shields the other day and they had more Iowa basketball and Caitlin Clark jerseys than I saw in a lot of some of your more popular teams outside of the Nebraska teams.
That's her impact. I mean, I imagine that Iowa, if you're a diehard Iowa fan, she has to eclipse, they've had some legends that have come through there in the numerous sports, but she has to be the most popular athlete ever at Iowa, like from the Iowa standpoint. I don't care if you diss women's sports, you have to acknowledge how good she is. She's also going back to how much power she has. So women's basketball, college basketball officiating, Jimmy knows this, is garbage. It isn't very good. It wasn't atrocious in the national championship game. Okay, it was really, really bad. But because she was on that stage along with Angel Reese and so many other people watched, they've had a concerted effort in the offseason to fix college women's basketball officiating because it has been such a lesser product compared to men's college basketball
people are
officiating.
watching now.
Yeah, people are watching. And if that's your storyline and it supersedes all the great players that are in the game, I mean, we're talking about Caitlin Clark. There's a young player from USC. Juju Stewart is coming up. And I mean, the sport is in a really, really good spot. So her being on that stage and the game was so poorly officiated that they've had to work to, fix their officiating, either pay better or do a better job of grooming the next officials that come up and, officiate high-level basketball. There's another thing I watched in that game last night. Again, so if you are a basketball head and you also were dabbling in the association, you saw Caitlin Clark do what she did. So that's, 4 straight games she scored 35 or more?
Yeah.
And she's not just shooting. Now, last night she didn't have a great line. She didn't have a great game throughout. There was a stretch where she kind of disappeared. But like the last 5 minutes, she took over. And she was good defensively. I mean, I also think she's one of the best passers in the game of basketball. And she can score. And she now has what is another number I saw last night? Oh, she has over 100 games of 20 or more. 100 games of 20 more. She's going to turn out to be the all-time leading scorer in the history of women's basketball. But this is what also she has done, is along with her and Curry, they have changed and they become more powerful because they have brought back the shot.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't too long ago that I was being told, hey, don't dunk. Don't shoot outside of 15 feet. I was being told that. Well, those both things were true because I was incapable of doing either one of them.
You could flush.
But coaches used to tell people, hey, don't shoot outside of 15 feet. 15 feet are in. And then the dunk became the thing.
Yeah.
Now the jump shot, and this is either good or bad. And I know some parents and coaches are like, no. We do not want to see the impact of a Curry and Clark because my kids are shooting from 30 feet away.
Yeah.
And all they do is shoot threes.
Yep.
But those two have been super powerful in changing how we look at basketball, that the jump shot from 18 and beyond is a good shot nowadays. And you should work on it instead of, that little in the lane, turnaround, fade away, or everything is a dunk or a layup.
And it's very old school thinking too, because I'm right there with you as far as what we learned. Use the glass, get the angle, don't lay anything off the front of the rim.
No. There are very few people that can be Steph Curry or Caitlin Clark,
right?
But yeah.
But and that also, and the Steph Curry part's a little bit different than Caitlin Clark because she's a good size for the position that she plays in women's college basketball. But it also gave that pathway to, you don't have to be the 6'5", 6'6" guy to play guard at a high level. So what I've always thought of the Steph Curry impact, and you're right, now you're seeing it with the Caitlin Clark, is not only is there acceptance of that, of being a good shot, but when it does come down to the fundamentals, and think about all those camps that exist for middle schoolers and high schoolers. I remember the first camp I ever went to. That's what we're working on, is everything inside the paint. If you were a certain height, like you're doing the block to block stuff, and
15 feet and in.
Yes, and free throws. And not that they don't still emphasize free throws right now. Well, I you're not off, because free throw shooting is down.
I watched high school basketball the last couple of days.
Free throw shooting.
We got to work on some free throw shooting and how to field a punt inside of the five. But carry on.
But yes, so I'm curious in those camps how much like the fundamentals of that jump shot are now being broken down, especially as you get to an age where you can get that up successfully. You're able to, get your feet into it. You're able to get your legs. You have enough, power in your legs to get into that shot, compared to what was just, the elbow jumper. And I'm curious with even your taller players. And I didn't know we're going to talk about Creighton last night, but you saw Ryan Kalkbrenner. We see stretch guys all the time, but are your basic big man fundamentals maybe starting to suffer a little bit, or the value of a higher percentage shot?
Well, the back to the basket, the big man now shoots the three.
Right.
He doesn't back a guy down,
and I think that's also kind of an impact of the three ball right now too. But yeah, you're right about Steph Curry, but now, again, thinking of the impact that Caitlin Clark has on little girls all throughout the country, and I mean that's a tough shot, and now to see that's going to be the cool thing to do, just like Steph Curry, just like guys that were 5'5", 5'6", that were now wanting to be the next Steph Curry, and knowing how rare that is as far as the low percentage of shot that is. Now you have the female part of this discussion too.
Yeah, it used to be shooting for nerds. That's kind of how it was taught in basketball. Is shooting is for nerds. Yep. Everything is a dunk.
You want to be powerful inside,
and
make your presence.
And it's changed. And shooting is sexy. So Steph and Caitlin have brought back the sexiness in the shot.
I mean, what's sexier than what she did last night with that shot? Think about that.
I don't think I'd use that word, but Justin Timberlake may have a song for it.
I mean, when you get you're literally, it actually reminded me of a guy you remember too.
Watch yourself, man. You'll get canceled in the station.
No, not what I'm saying.
I'll try and help you here, but I don't know where you're going.
It reminded me of, you remember Mitch Hahn.
Hey, let's see what's on the
we just put Mitch Hahn and Caitlin Clark in the same sentence.
Remember, he would line up from the O logo.
Cow.
And there were times.
Shout out the Pride of Fremont.
That's right. I remember there were times that you're like, what is he doing? And then you realize that's his range. And damn, there was something pretty cool about that. You hit that shot from that distance is one thing, but as a buzzer beater too, and then you just have a chance to kind of walk it off. You got the arms out. I mean, what is more of a, maybe sexy isn't the right term, but what is one of the more gratifying moments as an athlete? I don't care what sex you are.
She's so good. She normalized that shot.
Yeah.
Like she hit it, and I was like, wow. And then it was like, that's what she does.
Hmm.
Like, you saw that like a couple of weeks ago. She hit a shot like that.
Mhm.
I was just,
Yeah.
she's unbelievable. We have not seen anything like her in the women's game, and very rarely. Maybe I need to stop saying the women's game. Should have said we have seen in the game of basketball. We have not seen much that is like her. The way she plays the game, she shoots, the impact she has on and off the floor. I mean, I know a friend of mine is taking his daughters when Iowa plays at Nebraska, and he's a diehard Nebraska fan, but his daughters love Caitlin Clark, and
she's
they've seen all the TikTok videos of after games, how Caitlin Clark will sign autographs, and so they're excited that they might be able to get an autograph, and her impact is unbelievable. All right, welcome in everybody, as we're off and running on a Wednesday.
Makes me want Chinese food for lunch.
Hoops is here. Hopefully not microwaved in the microwave in this building.
Oh, no.
I met someone over the break. I don't know them, but just in a brief conversation. And my first thought was, that's the kind of person that microwaves fish at their place of work.
By the way, did you? I did not.
They just had that vibe.
I didn't know this about our friend Mike, Magic Mike, that his smelling senses are bad. So when Mike Newman or Newland, sorry, Mike Newland.
No, Mike Neville.
Wait, who's Mike Newland? The hell am I?
Not sure. I know Mike
Neville. Sorry, Mike Neville, Magic Mike. Yes, that he doesn't have like very strong senses of smell, so he did the fish thing a lot and didn't know why people were getting pissed off.
Really?
Yeah.
He doesn't give me that vibe.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
This guy I met gave me the vibe.
He's the
goes
guy
to the harbor, gets a fish, and sticks it in the microwave.
Yeah, you
just don't care.
You people, we don't like you. Okay. The lineup today, we'll talk about, we'll get to Creighton and Georgetown here in a bit, and we'll talk more with Matt DeMarinis because UConn, Gino Auriemma is in town. With Paige Becker, she's back from her injury. UConn and Creighton play tonight in women's hoops down at Sokol. So we'll get Matt
right here on the zone, by the way.
Really?
Yep.
It's a game on TV, though. Because I will be doing a game. I would like to possibly check in TV-wise.
Don't believe it is.
Like the times that UConn has come here to play, it has been on Sportsnet New York or Sports Channel New York or New York Sports Channel. Something. It's a regional network that carries.
It's like their version of. It's their version of Midco.
Yeah,
is what you're telling me.
WPIX.
Well, Connecticut Public Media used to carry all the games before UConn women's basketball.
Oh, SNY.
SNY.
Yeah, it is on SNY.
Okay, I don't think I get SNY on YouTube TV.
Unfortunately, I did not. I didn't subscribe to it.
So Matt DeMarinis is coming up at 8. Brandon Vogel stops by at 9:40. It is the lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. There's another part of the game-winning shot from the friggin' beak. She hit it from the friggin' beak last night at Carver Hawkeye.
Of the Tiger Hawk.
Were you guys surprised? There was a lot of confusion on the Twitter machine of did she get it off or not?
Yeah, there was. She did.
Yeah, it still blows me away that people look at the score bug, the Chiron on TV, and think that is the clock.
Oh, yeah.
That is not the clock.
No, you're looking at the shot clock.
Yeah, so I was that not well known? Because I saw people that we know that were going back and forth. Well, I don't know. I was no.
Look above the hoop.
Okay, yeah, and then when the backboard goes all red, the clock has expired.
Right.
I thought that was well known. I was really surprised by people going back and forth, going, I don't know if you got the shot off. I'm looking at the clock. That is not the official clock. And in Peacock's case, so if you've watched basketball, which, God dang it, Peacock. So I want to get rid of it after the Nebraska-Maryland game.
But they rope you in?
Well, and then the following week, Nebraska's playing at Oregon State, and so you got to watch it. Nebraska's got a couple of games coming up that are on Peacock. And I'm like, okay. And last night they had a good night. They had Purdue and Maryland, and then they had Iowa and Michigan State. But Peacock for basketball, their clock seems to be way behind.
Yes.
Not like a minute or something. Like the game goes to halftime and there's still time on the clock.
No.
But they seem to be behind a little bit more than, a lot of the other TV networks that carry games. They're synced up pretty well, or they can hook into the computer, but it's not the official clock. Peacock seems to be a little bit further behind. But I was just surprised that was not well known, and that the clock on the screen is not the official clock.
Yeah, that
and
should be.
there's some great shots of, by the way, of her getting it off, and it's way out of her hand. Before
I mean, it's 2 or 3 feet out of her hand. Yes, you see the space between her fingers and where the basketball is, and there's still
get it off.
There's still 0.1 second showing, and so it was easily a clean, good shot. Yeah, that was.
Walks off smoking a cigar.
Some of the score graphics too. Getting back to that. That's one of those areas that I think, again, this kind of goes back to maybe your common fan. Now, you were talking about people that we know should know better.
Yeah,
too.
like I saw Connor. Connor should know better. And Connor better than that.
Yeah,
Jack Mitchell was losing his mind. They're going, I went back, I looked at it. No, what are we doing here? This is not new.
It's a graphic.
This is not new. The score bug on the screen is not, the clock is not the official clock.
Yeah, it's a graphic. They're not always exactly in sync with what you're going to see above the backboard there too, especially in a shot like that. That's what you're watching. And you mentioned you have the ultimate failsafe too of the bordered red light on the backboard. That once that flashes, okay, we're at 0-0, and it had not even come close to that. That's always the first thing I'm looking at on buzzer beaters too. Is when did it look like it went off before it got off the hand? And clearly did not.
At least Peacock is better with graphics than CBS Sports Network.
It's tight.
No, not the tightness of the graphics. How about the accuracy?
Which was on CBS last night.
So I got the screenshot of
coaching Creighton again
of the Omaha, South Dakota game, and the starting 5 that CBS Sports Network put up on the screen. Now I think it's great that CBS Sports Network is carrying a handful of Summit League games.
Yeah,
it's great, and they carried the Omaha, South Dakota game on New Year's Eve. The graphic they had for the starting lineup is they basically took the first 5 players off of each roster and they inserted them into the starting lineup.
Oh, jeez.
So some white guys were all of a sudden black. And some black guys were all of a sudden white.
Oh, my gosh.
Might have thrown in some confusion to mom and dad watching at home. Then last night, CBS Sports Network had a Creighton player playing that hasn't been that left here.
Really?
Christophilus.
I did not remember that.
Yeah, it was on a graphic. They were showing Baylor Shireman, and all of a sudden that was John Christophilus. I'm like, damn, Christophilus is having himself a night. He's not even enrolled at Creighton.
Good thing they didn't throw in Kyle Korver.
But I like CBS Sports Network doing the Summit League. I think that's big for the league. I hate when they do Big East games. I think they just stumble over Big East basketball.
Really?
I remember this.
They don't
from last year.
It's the presentation compared to Fox, which has a full investment in the Big East.
I would give
and they
you that,
have
Fox.
guys that understand the Big East and around the Big East. Don't give me an East Coast guy and say, yeah, he gets the Big East.
He says tournament.
It's back-to-back games that Creighton has been on CBS Sports Network. Now
they got another one coming next week too.
I'm sure they like the exposure. I just don't like when the Big East is on CBS Sports Network because I think they do a subpar job compared to how Fox wraps their arms around the league.
You're saying you're not a Lapis fan?
An East Coast guy doing the Big East is not, hey, now
it's not validation.
We're going.
Yeah, you're right about Fox.
They just need to be back on ESPN.
Fox makes it look sort of not even a close race. It was okay yesterday. Now I missed that graphic though. Lapis is a bit of an acquired taste, I would say, to kind of get used to his breakdown and stuff. Yeah, it's very East Coast, but
they always do that. It seems like they're always doing the Creighton at Georgetown game. That's always on CBS Sports Network.
Yeah. DePaul.
Well, it's because it's not
the next
it's not
one
the marquee match. They get a chance to get Creighton, but they don't get Creighton in a marquee matchup as well. But yeah, Fox just does it very well. I think CBS Sports is fine. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, it's not even close to Fox. I would give you that. It doesn't maybe irk me as much. And maybe I get so caught up in the CBS theme music. I start thinking about March Madness. Maybe that's
I did too. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't know, but they're fine. It's not as good as Fox. I have no problem saying that. But yeah, it was fine last night. I did not see that graphic. That's pretty bad. That's not good.
They kind of look alike. I guess kind of. Kind of. But not like the Omaha, South Dakota lineup.
That's really bad. I did not know about that.
I've been around Frankie Fiddler for 3 years. He does
not
not
Frankie.
resemble Sebastian Perry, who is a redshirt walk-on
Oh my
on
gosh.
Omaha's roster.
So they did
Just saying.
for both
Just
Omaha.
saying.
So both Omaha and South Dakota had that.
Poor Frankie. He had a good
Oh.
week, too.
That's bad.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
Like my phone, we were like 4 minutes into the game on Sunday, and my phone, I was getting all these text messages from people, and I'm like,
Did Mahomes get hurt?
well, I was like, is something going on? And so during the first media timeout, I looked at my phone and like, look at this.
Oh
You know, all these emojis. I'm like,
gosh.
oh, man.
But also
man.
they're thinking,
Oh.
good thing nobody got hurt or anything super bad happened.
Yeah, that's bad though.
You can join the conversation because we'll talk some hoops. Last night, Creighton winning at Georgetown. Now they're home. Intriguing game on Saturday against Providence.
Day game.
Again, Matt DeMarinis will join us a little bit later, but you can always join the conversation, 951-1620. It's a 42-degree source hotline, or in the Equitable Bank inbox, where it's open all the time, just like Equitable Bank is. We'll answer it on your first send, just like they answered on the first call. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Very creative.
Mm-hmm.
Gary at 1620thezone.com.
Handley 1620thezone.com.
Or the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620.
At Nick Handley 1620.
All right, Matt DeMarinis, Brandon Vogel. There is some portaling. Nebraska's kicking the tires on a wide receiver who we're going to have to play math. I don't know if you guys are strong in math. I need some math help. I need some math help on this.
How's there's eligibility left?
All right, 6:37, off and rolling on a Wednesday on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. The best way to catch all the action is on 1620 The Zone. And no line for the bathroom.
Host is roasting every morning. Host is roasting every day.
Since 1972, family-owned and locally roasted Host Coffee Service has been roasting the finest coffee for businesses and restaurants. If you're ready to change to a better coffee provider, it's time for Host Coffee.
Omaha's best coffee since 1972. Host Coffee is always roasting something good for you.
Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is your home for the big game. Whether it's the NFL or a rivalry on the hardwood, you will find all the action on Oscar's top-of-the-line audio-video system. With 40 TVs and massive dual projectors, the game has never looked better. Pair that with their award-winning char-buffed wings and $7.99 Monday through Friday lunch specials, Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill has everything you need. 173rd and West Center Road, and for takeout at 162nd and Maple.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope, and they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
Start learning a new language today. Go to Babbel.com. That's BEL.com. Babbel.com.
A team succeeds when they work together. Banking's no different. At UBT, we're in your corner for every financial move you want to make. Your money's backed by a roster of experts who put in the work to know you and your community. So whether you're opening a savings account, buying a home, or planning your future, you always know who to turn to. Working together toward your financial goals. That's a win in our playbook. Union Bank and Trust. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Take your home to the next level with Level countertops, cabinets, and flooring. If you have a kitchen, bath, or closet that is completely dysfunctional, now is the time to make them functional. Level countertops, cabinets, and flooring is your expert for taking your home to the next level. The staff will listen to your needs and dreams and create a unique space specifically for you and your family. Visit the showroom at 192nd and West Maple or online at levelomaha.com. That's levelomaha.com.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
We're under 10. Here's Davis out near the timeline. Gets it to Stolke at the top of the key. Has it knocked away, but Reed gathers it. Now to Clark. Step back three at the buzzer. Oh! Not again. Indiana all over again.
Honestly, when it left my hand, I knew it was going in. So, yeah, I'm glad I could make that. And, you know, at the end of the day, maybe we didn't play our best today, but, you know, a win's a win. The Big Ten's really tough. Definitely.
She's going to be a star. I mean, she's a star on the floor, off the floor. When she gets a WNBA, her stock will grow even more.
She's now in State Farm commercials also with Reggie Miller.
Yeah,
the latest one.
Well, I saw the first one was kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
And then I saw the second one during
Can
the
she
bowl
replace
season.
him with Harlan?
So now she has more of a role. Yeah, the first she didn't say a lot in either one of them that I've seen so far.
She's just different.
Yeah.
And so pure and simple. She's just different. And she'll be playing in Lincoln. And I imagine that there will be a lot of people that are going strictly for her. Even though it should be a really good game when Nebraska and Iowa play next month. KG writes into the Equitable Bank inbox.
Morning, Kevin.
Also, welcome back, everybody. Like yesterday was a day off. We came back. The entire radio station came back, but a lot of people had yesterday off. Like I think school was off yesterday. People are back today. I notice there's more traffic before 7 on Dodge Street. I actually seen a bus.
So a few buses.
Welcome back, everybody, to civilization. So KG writes in, good morning. Good thing for KC. No.
I think he meant Caitlin Clark, but
okay. Spells it with a C.
Yeah.
Good thing for Caitlin Clark because no one is talking about Iowa football, especially the loathsome offensive OC play caller. I mean, come on, be nice to Brian Ferentz. He's unemployed.
He is.
Could this be a year for? I mean, this is like a great year if you are a ticked off Iowa fan. Think about this. You don't like Brian Ferentz.
Right. He's gone.
You got rid of him. Last night, Iowa men's basketball got beat by Wisconsin. They're 0-3 in the Big Ten. He gone. You might get your wish, and then you have a little Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
I mean, this Happy New Year to Iowa fan. This might be exactly what you want.
Does Caitlin Clark have, does she have some pull, though, as far as, we know who she's dating? Does that give Fran a little bit more runway to keep his job?
I don't know.
She says, hey, I like Fran. You guys ought to keep him.
Maybe that's a strategy.
Pops that's running a football program didn't have much power.
That's true. I'm just saying. When Caitlin Clark, you have that type of influence. If she just says, hey, you know what?
Okay, so
Fran's a great guy.
I'll entertain this goofiness that you've presented here. if Caitlin Clark says, if she says, hey, I would like you to keep Fran.
I stand
my
with
future
Fran.
father-in-law.
But I'll stay an extra year.
Oh.
Would that force the hand of the new athletic director at Iowa?
Heck yeah.
Oh, that's an easy decision. She's a moneymaker.
It's another sellout for all of your women's basketball games too. The revenue stream that comes in. Oh yeah.
She's not picking your OC.
You could skate by another year. Men's basketball will be fine. Especially if that relationship progresses. Hey, maybe people will like Fran more.
They'll want Caitlin
Can
to
I
take
introduce you
over.
to Fran Fatigue? Now, he's won. They've gotten in the NCAA tournament, but there is the fatigue part. He falls into that category, the James Franklins of the world that are good. They get you to the postseason.
Just good enough.
Yeah, just good enough. And you don't know what to do
But
with
then
them.
there's the boorish behavior. It's when you're not winning and that happens, whether you're
you mean
staring
that's
down
not
officials.
normalized?
Yeah. And you're not staring down officials or you're, just being an absolute psychopath over by the bench. When you're not winning, man, that tends to wear thin on people.
I saw his friend Kelly Pfeiffer on Sunday.
Oh.
He was working the Omaha game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You know what? Kelly Pfeiffer's a good dude. So he started out in the Summit League, so I would see him a lot. And he'd always talk to me. And now that he's, gotten above, he still works a couple games in Summit League because he lives up in Mitchell, South Dakota. We all know what his run-in with Fran was last year. He did something really cool on Sunday. So it was a pretty good crew. And the Summit League doesn't always get the best officiating crews, even though they have made a more concerted effort to pay more, develop officials. And the consortium is a little bit different where the Summit League has a little bit higher stature than it used to have. But he made a call early in the Omaha, South Dakota game. Now, this was told to me by an assistant coach. And he missed it. He came like 4 minutes later over to the Omaha bench, and he told the coaching staff, he goes, "Hey, I'm sorry, I missed that call." He goes, I just wasn't in the right position to make the call. And the game had
that's refreshing.
The game had continued on.
Yeah.
And there was just like a stoppage, and he happened to be over by the bench, and he just turned and said, I missed that call. I was not in the right spot, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. They own it.
Instead of, hey, yeah, I messed up, and you guys want to say something to me, I'm running by you. I'm not going to talk.
Yeah,
to you.
and now I have rabbit ears.
Yeah, he came over and he said, "Yeah, I missed it." I mean, that's a good dude. I mean, he's a good guy away from the floor. I know not everybody agrees with on the floor stuff, but I thought that was interesting. High level official, Final Four type guy that admits to a mistake, and he goes to the coaching staff and admits it.
Boy, I wonder if that'll ever come out of that Lions Cowboys game.
I was fine with the result.
I think that's very refreshing to hear. I would think also as a coach, you understand every game there's going to have some moments where an official either misses a call or there's something you don't agree with. When you get that open in communication, especially something like that, where there was something that was missing, I don't even know what the call was. And then you are able to say, hey, that's on me. Like especially a guy of that stature, that he's going to have a reputation of being, a guy that does a lot of also big games that can actually do that, because I think the bigger games you're part of at any sport and as officials, you probably feel, the ego does come with that a little bit too.
So can we talk about officials last night in the Creighton Georgetown game?
It ties in with how this started, so sure.
So I don't think they were not bad. They were not the story of the game.
No.
But for the record, I enjoy the Alabama Creighton style better than the Big East style.
Oh, absolutely.
That game kind of went how I thought. It went a little bit longer. I thought Georgetown, after not playing for 10 days, they would come out, they would hang for 10 minutes. They hung for 20.
Yeah.
It was 28-24 at halftime, and then Creighton comes out and they score on 14 of their first 17 possessions to begin the second half.
Yeah.
Now, the end of the game got kind of interesting, where starters had to come back in because Georgetown made that run. I mean, that was a 20-point game, but that game kind of played out like I thought it would be. It just Georgetown was able to hang around without Epps for 10 minutes longer. But I love the Alabama Creighton game, the free flowing, let them go at it. It was physical.
It's a fun watch.
But it was entertaining. For Creighton fan, it was entertaining because they won a game and you could exhale. But man, when games are officiated like that, that's a really tough watch. To the optics on television, there was we were getting whistles all the time.
Yeah, there's zero flow that game.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. There was zero flow to the game.
Yeah.
To match the environment of the arena.
Well, and
that's another story.
You get into the part of what we were watching last night of, okay, the one thing you have to do better compared to the last two games for Creighton was take care of the basketball in that first half. And this is kind of where I go into the flow of the game with a lot of the whistles and just kind of sloppy play. There's like a lot of spacing issues for both teams too. Like Creighton didn't look overly in sync in the first half too. And then all of a sudden there towards the end, I would say probably like the last 10 minutes, You started seeing a lot of turnovers, and it started happening a lot more frequent. You're thinking, oh my gosh, here we go again. Creighton is, you could tell just off the dribble, they were far better than Georgetown, but you're getting a whistle here, you're getting a turnover there, and it continued to really grind any type of rhythm that game, but especially Creighton was going to get into. I gotta admit, like at halftime, I was thinking this might not be good because you started to see some of those similar trends that you saw in the previous two games when it did come with how they were taking care of the basketball. And give Creighton credit, because in the second half, again, just watching it, even as it's tight in the first half, you could tell that Creighton was a better team. They didn't have a lot of answers for what Creighton wanted to do, but it was about execution. It was about taking care of the basketball. And then the second half, they get out to a good run. I think they had like a 20-5 run at one point there between the 17-minute mark and like the 10-minute mark that kind of just blew that thing wide open. But there was the scoring droughts that Georgetown had in the first half that Creighton's not taking advantage of. I think it was like almost 7 minutes that Georgetown did not have a single point, yet Creighton doesn't stretch that lead like you would think that they would against a team like that too. So
and with the last 4 possessions of the first half, they turned it over.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I don't know, and that's what turnovers got to 11 in the first half, but then I think it finished with only 14.
So the question about last night is, and we'll go into this with Matt DeMarinis when he joins us in about an hour, is which half is closer to the Creighton team where they're at currently. Now, I still say they look like a strong 7 seed. I saw a couple of brackets this morning before I came into the studio. They're listed as a 6 seed. Oh, by the way, Nebraska's an 11 seed. Just do that NCAA committee. Have Nebraska.
See Joey Buckets, last team in.
Have Nebraska.
Big picture of Casey.
Have Nebraska and Creighton play in the NCAA tournament. The opening round is a 6 and 11.
In Albany.
Who had somebody? It might have been Mike DeCourcy. Has Nebraska's an 11 playing Baylor. I've seen that before. Tim Miles got thrown out of that game.
Yeah.
We don't need to see that.
And then we remember what happened with Baylor in the following round with Creighton.
But here's the thing about the first half to the second half yesterday. So, the first half was, it
was Georgetown
tough to
watch.
was up 5 with 7 minutes to go in the first half, and you're like, The second half, the flow was definitely in a game that didn't have a lot of rhythm. The flow offensively was better. Just look at, I love to look at the assist to field goals.
Mm-hmm.
That was typical Creighton in the second half, but also guys weren't standing around.
Yeah.
Guys stand around a lot on this offense. And Ashworth there's probably going to be a game where he goes, you critics out there, look what I did. And he'll shoot lights out. Okay, that's going to happen. But he's an issue. And when he is bottled up, and we'll see Providence defense travels, and we'll see what happens on Saturday. But they were standing around the first half. Holy cow. And then in the second half, guys were moving, guys were cutting. They were patient with the basketball. They were waiting for the cutter to get through the lane to pass them the ball. I mean, it was night and day. It's so amazing. The first half to the second half on who that team was last night.
Well, but they show that in the second half. You've seen that throughout the season, and especially you mentioned the Alabama game, the Iowa game. But
not of late. I mean,
exactly.
The Marquette game was not.
And that's why I'd say if you're asking the question, currently where I think they are is still closer to that first half team, because that was not. I mean,
the truth is somewhere in the middle.
I'd say this as far as the overall movement of the offense, because you're right, and I was actually encouraged to kind of see it was towards the end of the first half, and they did a little bit more in the second half too, kind of work the high-low game with Kalkbrenner as well. But I think when you kind of watch that offense there in the first half, the thing that was just kind of interesting was I go back to the spacing. It just, with a lot of the cuts, and then you had a lot of the pick and roll, and the spacing was when they were getting the basketball off, you didn't have kind of like the point to wing where there's usually like a lot better spacing. There's not a lot of guys that are just kind of going to the same position, going in the same direction or the same spot. Like it just seemed kind of clunky. And so when I watched that first half compared to the second half, that's the thing about this team that I'm still really concerned about is where was that sense of urgency? Because they had that in the second half for a team that I think really wanted to get out to a good start yesterday in a game.
It gets a bad team.
Exactly.
Not very good.
Exactly. That's where I wanted to see more of a sense of urgency. And it wasn't there in the first half. I'm not trying to dismiss, hey, you needed a win. First and foremost, you needed a win. You needed to at least show one 20-minute part of this game that looked more like what you think you are. But that first half was, I got to admit, it was very discouraging.
So the question becomes, is it fixable? Are the turnovers fixable? Against a good basketball team, is this going to continue?
I think it does. There's a just.
You think it does?
I think it continues. I mean, it's fixable from the standpoint of, because not all turnovers are created equal. Like yesterday, I saw a lot of the turnover issues on some of the entry passes. When you had a defender half-siding Kalkbrenner, he was able to maybe reposition himself. So the idea to get it into Kalkbrenner wasn't bad, but it was the timing of it, the execution of it. Like that, I think is fixable. When the angles you're taking for entry passes. But again, the spacing part of it, like that to me was where guys were, on handoffs and all of a sudden the ball's just knocked away, but it wasn't by a defender. It's just all of a sudden on the ground. Like those things to me are kind of careless turnovers too. I would like to think a lot of the turnovers itself in this sport of basketball are probably somewhat fixable, but I would look at like some of I go back to like the entry passes. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that's just something you continue to work on, but
man, there's
some sloppy play there.
They got to be better because Devin Carter is coming to town on Saturday.
Well, and that's
defensive player of the year in the Big East. If you had a vote right now, I mean, he locked up Kolek of Marquette.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ashworth ain't going to pick him up. It'll be probably Trey or Baylor, but I don't know. I wonder. Again, Matt DeMarinis will join us, and now we're getting into a deeper conversation. Are all of these turnovers fixable? They were fixable in the second half, but against a team that's not going to get up and get in your jersey. All right, let's finish the hour with Random Mike. Happy New Year, Mike.
Likewise, I saw Caitlin Clark's stat during one of her games. And how many Division I basketball players are there, men and women combined?
Ooh.
Is it like 7,000 or something?
Hold on. Let me do the math.
Okay. While you're doing that, they had two columns, okay? Caitlin Clark.
About 3,000, 28, 26.
Men, women?
Men, women combined.
Oh, really? Okay. That's big enough. So two columns. Caitlin Clark on one side, all the others, men and women, Division I on the other side, okay? And the category was number of times in the last 5 years a player has averaged 25 points a game. I'm pretty sure this is it. 25 points a game, 5 rebounds a game, 5 assists a game.
Mm-hmm.
Caitlin Clark did it 4 times in the last 5 years. Everybody else, it was down to once.
Yeah, she's not normal. She's different.
That's not a fair fight, her against everybody else. I mean, yeah, unbelievable. So how does Caitlin Clark become Caitlin Clark? To me, that's you'd like to know that. But you were talking about comparisons. I was thinking Pete Maravich, and that goes back a long time.
No, I've heard that as well. Just the way she plays the game, because I think if you watch her closely, the points show up because that's what we can see right away. But I tell you, she's one of the best passers in basketball that I have seen, men or women.
Gary, I totally agree. And the whole length of the court, she's got to be really strong. I mean, she can shoot from so far out. She can pass the length of the court without any problem. I think arguably she's a better passer than she is a shooter. It's unbelievable. And if you're a teammate of Caitlin Clark, just don't suck.
Hey, how would let me ask you this, Mike? How would you guard her?
Hey, they're trying to figure that out. And she's gotten better. And she's gotten stronger. She's jumping better. Her defense is getting better. But I think you can make a case with great offensive players. You don't want them to be too focused on defense because that takes a lot of energy.
Yeah. Defense is not her strength, but she got a key block at the end of the game.
Yep.
She's must watch. And the audience that she has gained in college, I think the WNBA is hoping that they will follow her into that league and continue to support wherever she is at by watching, buying tickets, merchandise, all that kind of stuff. But she's a star. I mean, she is a star, and she's comfortable in her own skin, and that goes a long way in promoting the sport and promoting herself.
Oh, absolutely. And she is must, like you guys are saying, she's must watch TV. I was really disappointed because I had been trying to watch all the games. I didn't know it was on Peacock, which I'm not too crazy about Peacock anyway. But is there a salary cap in the WNBA?
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
So So if you're an Iowa fan, the question is, why is she still at Iowa? You know, she could have been a pro after her first year, but
she's doing okay in Iowa.
Well, she has another year of eligibility if she elects to take it.
Yeah, unbelievable. And with NIL and with the salaries that they're getting the WNBA, and that's why so many play in Europe, you know, or Asia, or whatever, you know, these horrible dictatorships like so many Nebraska volleyball players have done. The point is, with NIL, she can probably make more money in college than in the WNBA. So, you know,
yeah,
that's possible.
Yeah. Beneficial.
Yep.
Hey, take care, guys.
Hey, Mike, thank you.
I think she'll be
covered a lot of things there.
Yeah. I think she will be a very highly endorsed professional athlete. But he's right. I mean, the pretty much zero limitations that you could have for another year as far as what you can make financially coming back for another year. My gosh, I don't think it happens, but that would be. It's amazing that you now have that option where you could come back and even make as much or more than you would in the pro leagues, and what was used to be the case where you couldn't do that, didn't have that opportunity, or at least legally didn't have that opportunity to do it. The other thing, and as Random Mike was talking, he asked how do you defend her, or you asked how would you defend her, and he's like, that's what everyone's trying. That's the thing about her, and I don't know if Bluter got concerned about this, probably not, because she knows her very well. With a lot of the attention and the fame and a little bit more of the responsibilities, now you're kind of being a little bit of a pitch person for State Farm and some other bigger. There's a little bit more.
She just led off the Today Show.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a little bit more demand on her time that you maybe would wonder or worry or be concerned if the game would suffer at all. And clearly that's not the case. Like, she's one of those, as Random Mike talked about, very strong. And I think this is part of it. There are players that just have that gift that are just naturally, and again, this is any sport, but then the ones that are relentless in the pursuit to be like the best. She strikes me as one of those personalities. When you hear her talk, she is as locked into that pursuit of, I mean, she's already left her mark, but leaving even a bigger mark. Like, it's not written, like that story's not done. Her work ethic, like that pursuit of it, you can tell is try as you may to try to slow her down or to try to catch up to her. You're probably not going to.
Update with Jimmy's coming up after the break. WNBA, the salary cap is $1.4 million, meaning that is the budget each team is allowed to spend on player salaries.
Sheesh.
So this is an indictment of the WNBA that Caitlin Clark could stay at Iowa for one more year, make more money than she would make in the WNBA, and travel better than they do in the WNBA.
Yep. Hey, they're finally getting some commercial flights. Yeah, in the WNBA. That's
no.
rough.
We want them to have charter flights.
Yeah, I know. I said
they fly mostly commercial.
They're doing commercial now. They finally got that, which that's.
They
that's
spring
terrible.
extra to be on A boarding.
Because at one point weren't they like busing a lot too?
No.
Okay, I thought there was some busing going on before.
I think
that was a league of their own.
They're too spread out.
That's true.
They wouldn't allow them to bus.
I wouldn't
unless
hope
you
not.
were Brooklyn or New York.
Yeah.
But no, they have to fly commercial a lot, and they will not spring for full charters.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe Brittany Griner's team had to go charter because of the security issues.
Yes, I do remember that.
But it's a bad look for the WNBA that Caitlin Clark could stay at Iowa, make more money, and travel better.
That's
great
terrible.
for Iowa.
1.4 for the entire team.
Great for Hy-Vee.
That's crazy. I knew the number would be low. I didn't realize it'd be that low. Because I mean, and let's be honest, there are very, very few players in the next decade that would be WNBA players that would be able to command that type of money NIL-wise that Caitlin Clark can.
So Sabrina would have if she
So
was
it looks
a couple
like the
years
highest paid players make about $235K.
It's like radio.
Really? Update with Jimmy is coming up. A little later, Matt DeMarinis and Brandon
this
Vogel.
radio.
Got to get your agent on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center, an earlier accident near 102nd and Blondo has been cleared out, but a new accident reported westbound on Dodge approaching 30th Street, so you may experience some delays if you are approaching that area. And just as a reminder, look out for that patchy fog this morning, not impacting visibility too much, but just something to be aware of as you start your morning commute. Stay safe and wear those seatbelts. I'm Peter Krenzer.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Zoom Drain.
Dealing with any type of plumbing issue can be overwhelming, especially if it's related to your drain or sewer lines. Thankfully, Zoom Drain specializes in drain and sewer services of all scopes. Contact Zoom Drain anytime by logging on to zoomdrain.com.
My passion for the unborn comes from my own unplanned pregnancy. Dan and I have been together for over 45 years. We have 3 of the most beautiful children. My name is Marlis Patma. I'm the former president of Iowa Right to Life, and I'm supporting Nikki Haley for president. I've heard Nikki's story. She speaks with such clarity about the importance of life because for her, it's personal.
I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children.
Nikki's a sister in Christ. She's pro-life. She has compassion and strength. I want a president with moral clarity who can restore our country, our pride, and our purpose. For my children and yours, please support Nikki Haley for president.
I'm Nikki Haley, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Nikki Haley for president.
J-Tech Construction, the official exterior experts of the Huskers, offers exterior solutions that help you protect your #1 investment. Whether it's roofing and siding or windows and doors, they're committed to excellence, quality, and outstanding customer service in every step of the process. When it's time to protect the exterior of your home, your choice is simple. Turn to who the Huskers turn to, J-Tech Construction. Check them out online and schedule a free estimate today. J-Tech Construction, the official exterior experts of the Huskers.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that we can give our daughters everything they need to grow and learn. But not every child can focus on classes and play dates.
Nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. face hunger. That's 1 in 6. School lunch might be their only meal each day, and it's heartbreaking to imagine any child going to bed hungry. We're dreaming of a perfect day when kids can smile, play, and just be kids without worrying about where their next meal will come from. Feeding America is working to make that perfect day a reality.
Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. That food is given to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about doing things that make an ordinary day extraordinary. Learning to play an instrument, building a sandcastle, hosting tea parties. Hunger should never be an obstacle to growing up.
You can help end childhood hunger in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees, The Source, by your mom's house.
The Serve Nebraska Volunteer Service Commission was created to ensure that community service would always be a priority in our state. I'm Governor Jim Pillen, and this year, I'm inviting you to help celebrate Serve Nebraska's 30th year by becoming a volunteer. Our state's best resource is its people. You have the potential to make a significant impact. Thank you.
Sponsored by Serve Nebraska, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
KOZ and Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620, The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620, The Zone.
Bellevue West seniors are in their 4th consecutive Metro Conference Holiday Tournament title game. They'll face Omaha Central tonight, 7:15. On the girls' side, Omaha Central will take on top-ranked Millard West. In intercollegiate basketball, the Creighton men win in Georgetown 77-60 to notch their first Big East win of the season and improve their overall record to 10-4. It was tight and ugly early, but the Jays used a 26-9 second-half run to pull away and turn a tight game into a runaway. The Jays back home at the Chi Saturday afternoon to host Providence at 1 o'clock. The Creighton women host UConn tonight at Sokol at 6. Nebraska ball hosts Indiana tonight at PBA at 8 o'clock. The Hoosiers are 10-3 overall, 2-0 in league play. The Huskers' 11-2 record matches their best 13-game start since the 91-92 team opened with a 12-1 mark through the first 13 games. The Husker women are in Madison to face Wisconsin tonight at 8 o'clock. Nebraska 10-3 overall, 2-0 in Big Ten play. The Omaha women are at Eastern Washington tonight at 6. The Maverick men host Northern Arizona tonight at Baxter Arena. Frankie Fiddler earns his first Summit League Peak Performance of the Week award of his career. He led the Mavs with 59 points across 2 games against Denver and South Dakota last week, shooting 17 for 30, including 5 and 11 from 3, and going 20 for 22 from the free throw line. He also recorded 7 steals and 7 rebounds, as well as 4 assists and a block. Not bad for the Zone's Frankie Fiddler. In the NFL, Carolina Panthers owner Dave Tepper, not that Dave Tepper for some that might wonder, he was fined $300,000 by the NFL for what the league called his unacceptable conduct during Sunday's 26-0 loss to the Jaguars. Tepper was caught on video being a Richard by throwing a drink in the direction of Jags fans from his open-air suite at what was once the Gator Bowl. Tepper, in a statement, said he is passionate about the team, but regrets his behavior. Duval. He is the second richest owner in the league with a net worth of $20.6 billion. The fine represents less than 1% of 1% of his wealth. Women's basketball, Caitlin Clark added to her highlight reel Tuesday night, hitting a buzzer-beating three-pointer from the beak to secure a 76-73 win for the Hawkeyes over Michigan State. After a back-and-forth outing in which both teams led for stretches, and with the tie game's final seconds ticking away on Iowa's last possession, Clark drained a 3 and ran to the front row of the court's far side to celebrate with fans. Finally, the Grambling women's basketball team ushered in a new year last night with a performance unseen any year before it. 8 players scored in double figures as the Lady Tigers rolled to a 159-18 triumph against the College of Biblical Studies in Louisiana. That marked the biggest margin of victory in Division I women's basketball history. I'm sure there's a Bible lesson about a beating like that. The Lady Tigers jumped out to a 34-0 lead behind 5 touchdowns, not allowing their first points until the 2:14 mark in the opening quarter. They closed that period with a 12-4 run, then scored the first 12 points of the second quarter en route to an 82-10 lead at the half. So I'm sure a College of Biblical Studies overreaction was insane last night.
Hey, what do you think the line would be if the biblical, what is it, the College of Biblical Studies?
I wonder what their mascot is. Something harmless, like a penguin or something, or a bear.
What do you think the line would be if they played Oak Hills Christian, who got beat 108-14 by North Dakota State?
I'm still going with the College of Biblical Studies.
I'm going to go Oak Hills in 7 games.
I saw the score. The score graphic was shared by a lot of people who were being snarky at halftime, and I thought, what you guys don't understand is College of Biblical Studies is a good second half team. But apparently the second half team did not show up yesterday.
You know what? Sometimes you just have a bad night. Just have an off night.
Oh, great teams cover.
Yeah.
Grambling did.
Speaking of guess the line, would you guys like to play a little game?
Okay.
Well, first, let me give a little vent. I have to vent about something Jimmy mentioned there in the update.
Tepper?
No, Dave Tepper is fantastic. I miss Dave Tepper. Not the
owner. No. You're talking about a different one that was
former program director of 1620. Could you say, by the way, that he threw a Tepper tantrum?
A Tepper? Oh, that was great.
Thank you.
Love it.
I will be here until 10.
Love it.
I can't guarantee I'll be here tomorrow. But so I've gone 2 days to the Metro Holiday Tournament. Have you guys, either one of you been?
No, I've not
I saw Jacob's video of the really cool moment on Saturday.
So Gretna, tight game yesterday with Central. Central ended up pulling it out, and now Central and Bellevue West, as Jimmy mentioned, play tonight. Bellevue West looks really, really good. But I was there yesterday, and when I first moved back to here, they were still at the Civic. So like the Metro Holiday Tournament, the Civic Auditorium, where you could smell everything that's been in the Civic Auditorium.
I played in 1 year,
and your feet like stuck to the floor.
Yep.
And if you're a fat guy like myself and you have to sit in the seats, you're like squeezed in. But it was like special. That building made that tournament
for the players.
special.
It was really cool.
Yeah,
you really.
And then it moved to Ralston Arena, and I thought it was okay at Ralston Arena. You had enough parking. You know, you had time to move around. Then it was really cool at Baxter Arena, but people didn't want to pay $20 for a glass of water and half of a hot dog.
Yeah.
So it also Ralston Arena and Baxter Arena didn't come cheap. So the last few years they've had to move it into the high schools. So Bellevue West and Prep, and it's a cool event for this town, boys and girls, because it's kind of it's almost a reunion of people you don't see except for one time a year. and they're either back in town, they come to the Metro Holiday Tournament. Like last night, there was a plethora of stars, athletes that were there. Like I saw Caden Helms. Caden Helms was back,
Nice.
former Bellevue West tight end who's now at Oklahoma. Yeah, he looks cock diesel. Checked in with Christian Jones, see how he's doing from West Side.
Ask him about Nebraska.
He said, Fighting Irish. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Whoa.
Just kidding.
Come on now.
As he was sitting around the Rezacs. But so it's a cool atmosphere. The one thing that's missing is the late Barry Silverstein, the legendary PA voice of Creighton Prep. And Barry's been gone for a while.
Yeah.
I love Barry. Barry became, when he moved to Arizona, when we would come back, we always got together for lunch. I love Barry. When I was down in Arizona, any game I would do, he would come.
That's awesome.
I miss him in, like that distinctive voice.
Shooting
but
two.
Like the Metro Holiday Tournament was his deal.
100%.
And they've done, I like Prep. It's a fun place to watch a game, and they do a really good job putting the tournament on. And there were a lot of people there for the boys' games I went and saw yesterday. Here's my only complaint. And I would like to hear other people here because we got to come up with a solution. The parking is crazy. So you have, and it was kind of packed last night, and they don't have a lot of spots in the front or behind Prep. But man, there were people parking on the grass.
They on the baseball field?
There were people parking in the neighborhood. Like when you turn off of 72nd there onto Western.
Western, yeah.
There's, I don't know, there's a doctor's office or whatever's on the corner.
Yeah.
That parking lot was
packed.
packed.
Really? Wow.
But there were people just parking everywhere.
Yeah.
But then when you have to leave,
oh God,
man, it's like bumper cars. You have to have a plan. That's my only complaint about the Metro Holiday Tournament. But other than that, it's a banger. It'll always be something special to this town. I wish it was like in Ralston or Baxter.
Yeah.
We could bring back Civic Auditorium, Mayor. But it's a good atmosphere. Just, man, you got that parking. Wow. I saw people like they're parking on the grass. It was crazy.
Well, and it's kind of an older neighborhood behind Creighton Prep. I'm trying to think of what would be the best area to be able to have decent traffic flow there too. It's not the easiest place.
It's not easy to get in there.
It really isn't. Man, the Civic Auditorium, gosh, that was and I remember we played my junior year, we played in the very first game of right out of the moratorium, and it was holiday break. It was a weekday, there was nobody there. And I remember even the PA, that the sound or the songs that they were playing was easy listening stuff. They were it's almost like they're just I just turn something on while these guys are warming up.
Yeah. By the way, we got to fix the music. Hey, Doc Schinzel over at Prep. We got to fix that music between games.
No good.
It's like the same playlist as a Husker game.
What was it?
Give the teams what they want.
Oh, okay. Was it more of what he would want, or what people of a certain age would want?
It seemed to be like what's the Christmas station in town?
Star?
When they're not playing Christmas music, they.
Oh, okay. So they play anything.
Easy listening.
It was the best hits of the 80s, 90s, and today.
All right. I don't.
Here's Steve Winwood.
I don't know.
Valerie.
As a 17-year-old trying to warm up before the game to Simon and Garfunkel, I think it'd be a little tough.
Yeah, it would be tough. But yeah, the arena, in having to adjust, shooting into the actual arena as opposed to a wall that you're used to. There was just a lot of cool things about it, and there was hardly anybody there, but it was.
You can pretend.
You're playing an arena, and at the time that's where Creighton played too. So you're okay, we're playing here. It's really neat. I can imagine it was the same at Ralston Arena and at Baxter, because you're kind of shooting out into the open. It kind of gives you that big sort of atmosphere feel, like what you're going to experience down at State. So yeah, it was always cool, regardless of how many people showed up.
Bellevue West Joey says, I had to park at the funeral home across the street. The parking issues at Prep. I like the actual gym at Prep, but the parking lot is a cluster. We're all in agreement here.
Hope he didn't park in the overhang over by the.
Can you imagine? We've been lucky enough around here. The winter weather has not hit. It snowed a little bit, but so people are. You guys got to see this. People are parked everywhere, just pulling up on the grass. Wish it was at Ralston Arena, but I understand the cost issues with that. Yeah, I thought Ralston Arena actually worked out really well, outside of the fact that they don't have their own floor, so they had to go to Mid America Center and Council Bluffs and bring that floor over.
Oh yeah, because they wouldn't have the Omaha one.
No, because Omaha took Omaha moved out of Ralston to Baxter, they took the floor because they owned it. So they have to go. They rent a floor.
Yeah,
but I thought for the setup, Ralston Arena actually was really good, but there was, there's costs, and I don't know that the coffers for the Metro Conference are real deep to pay those kind of
Yeah.
rent fees. Because I don't think is the Metro Wrestling at SAP anymore. Isn't that in high schools
I
as
don't
well?
believe it's at SAP. Yeah,
And it used to be pretty cool that it was at
Yeah.
SAP.
Yeah, I don't think it's at SAP anymore, if I remember correctly.
Concerning the score that Jimmy relayed earlier about College of Biblical Studies, they did not have a prayer.
Indeed.
Would you get in trouble as the opposing radio announcer if you said that?
No.
Tough night tonight for College of Biblical Studies.
I wouldn't have a prayer.
They didn't have a prayer.
It's
It's going to take a miracle for them to rally down 72 with 8 minutes to go.
She parts the Red Sea and scores to cut it to 86.
All right, Matt DeMarinis is going to join us here in the top of the hour. Creighton and UConn women. Paige Beckers is healthy. I am so glad that they do not move that game to the Chi. That they make UConn play in Sokol. Sokol's a great home court advantage. You don't need a bunch of jabronis that are just there because they want to watch UConn.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you got 10,000 people there, and
they're just kind of there. They're
4,000
not,
of them are rooting for UConn, or
Right.
there to see Gino and
Right.
Paige Beckers.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they keep that at Sokol. So we'll get Matt's thoughts on that game tonight, along with what happened last night in D.C. with Creighton's win.
College Biblical Studies, by the way, is the ambassadors.
Oh, of course.
Shock.
The ambassadors.
Shock. They couldn't be the Tigers.
Here come the fighting ambassadors.
I mean,
they should be the fighting ambassadors. I don't
maybe we got to give them credit. At least they have a nickname.
The lady fighting ambassadors.
Yeah. Very interesting logo, too.
Do you think like the radio guy, when they block a shot, he goes, he stopped him with his staff. And then like when
Is it the Jim Harbaugh staff?
their point guard, a European transfer, splits the lane, he goes, he's like Moses.
Yeah, he's Moses.
I would love to do one game. That's all I would do.
Oh, same.
I would just do nothing but, yeah.
Or if he's D'ing up on one, and all of a sudden, like a guy does a crossover, and he goes, he told him, "Thou shalt not steal."
Oh, that's good.
Teddy from the corner, he rises up like Easter.
It'd just be fun for at least one game, and then we probably wouldn't be asked to come back.
And we pause 10 seconds.
That ref has a lot of Pontius Pilate in him. All right, let's guess the line here, because there is a trio of good basketball tonight. Over at Baxter, Omaha plays Northern Arizona. You're going, what in the? Did they just join the Summit League?
Probably.
They have the Big Sky Summit League Challenge. So the men from Flagstaff, who are known as the Lumberjacks.
The Lumberjacks, yes.
You don't think I'll have a punt or two tonight?
I hope so.
Frankie Fittler drives and he cuts down a lumberjack.
Oh, there you go.
If you
chopping wood. Great.
The head coach for Northern Arizona gets into an argument. He's a lumberjack and he don't care. But you also have Indiana, Nebraska. That's a huge game down at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Would you guys like to guess the line?
K-State night.
Nebraska has lost 7 in a row to IU. The striped pants are back. I love me some full warm-ups.
Yep.
People have listened to the show. Like, I like Creighton Prep. They wear the full warm-ups. They have the striped pants. Indiana still wears
The candy
the
cane.
full
Candy stripes.
warm-up. So they are back tonight for the 8 o'clock tip-off. Students are not back. But I imagine it'll be a
Yeah.
pretty charged-up crowd because
Yeah.
it's IU, and Mike Woodson will do something to engage the crowd.
Sure.
Would you guys like to guess the line? Trying to snap a 7-game losing streak tonight. The line for Nebraska, Indiana is
Indiana 3.5.
Nebraska -3.
all right. Nebraska is a 4.5-point favorite.
Ooh, 4.5
for tonight's
Okay.
game.
So in a neutral side, it would be a pick 'em. Whoa.
New day we live in. Nebraska favored. 4.5.
Well, okay.
I like this.
Nebraska basketball. You guys may not know this, but Nebraska basketball is 17-5 in the last 22 games.
Yes, they are. They're 11-2. Best start. What'd you say since 91?
91-92.
They won double-figure games before Dick Clark dropped his ball. That doesn't happen at Nebraska. But would you like to go all in on this? Are you guys ready to go all in?
I want to.
I don't know.
So, like tonight's an important game. Kick off to the Big Ten season. More important to win for the fans or for your NCAA hopes? Because I sense some trepidation, because that's what you do as a Nebraska ball fan. Lost to Minnesota, got it back in Manhattan, but God, how did you lose to Minnesota, especially after Garcia went out? Is this team for real? Please don't do this to me, because it feels like a spot where Nebraska does it to you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the optics of winning a game like this as a slight favorite against a team that has owned you, I think a little bit more for the fans. Of course, it helps the NCAA.
Yes, yeah.
But I think for the fans, because the optic of if you win a game like this, you're like, oh, okay, Fred.
Yeah.
Let's have some speaks.
Okay, so
because you are 1-1 in the conference, you have to get to 10 wins in the conference, which will get you to probably 5th when it's all said and done.
Yeah, so I think it goes without saying that it's, I mean, isn't it, this is still got to be more important for the NCAA tournament, right?
I'd say that.
Because, like, I hear what you're saying about the fan part, because I said this yesterday. I'm not ready to jump back in yet. I'm looking for Nebraska to change the narrative. But their strength of schedule is what, like 330 something. I don't know. It's bad.
You can only play the schedule that money can buy.
I know. That's why when you have the opportunities at home in a game that you're favored, and that's the perception right now. The rink mass game time decision is huge, is so big for tonight. But if you're able to get that win, then all of a sudden, okay, from the fan standpoint, that to me is a pretty big step in changing the narrative of.
Yeah, so it's more important to the fans.
Yeah. Because I think
Indiana is very inconsistent. Indiana is going to crash the boards, but they've been inconsistent this year. Because here's what's going to happen. I've been following this program for way too long. Nebraska will win tonight. Then against a good Wisconsin team, who's probably, I would say in the Big Ten. So you have Purdue, which is by themselves. Illinois was impressive last night. They don't have Shannon. They go to Chicago and they just thumped Northwestern. I mean, by 30. So it's Purdue. There's a space. There's Illinois. There's a smaller space, and then there's Wisconsin. This is so typical Nebraska basketball. Nebraska wins tonight. Then they go to Madison on Saturday. It's a super competitive, high-level game. Wisconsin gets a bucket at the end, and smarmy Greg Gard smiles. and
his
then
punchable face.
And then next week, number 1 Purdue and Zach Edey roll into town for an 8:00 tip.
Oh, God.
For an 8:00 tip on the Big Ten Network.
Students still won't be back.
Oh, but the game's close to being sold out.
Yeah.
But Zach Edey is here. You remember last year when Nebraska got shafted by the officials?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All those guys for Purdue are back. Nebraska is at home.
New team.
Do what you will with that. But that's how I think it'll play out. But tonight, I think if Nebraska wins, I know it's on the ledger for the resume, but I think for the fans to go, okay, because that's a game that Nebraska drops out of the break. Inconsistent team coming in here. Home game, Nebraska lays an egg. I don't think it happens tonight. I think they get to 12-2. Remember, I said they got to get to 20. They got to win 10 games in the Big Ten to ensure that they don't need help when they get to Minneapolis.
Okay. As long as we're acknowledging the resume, and that is what it is. For the fans, I'll go back to this. And this is where I don't think I'm alone in thinking this. With what they just recently pulled off in non-con play and what you saw in the 2 losses that they've had, and one, I think one you could have probably seen against Creighton, but a really bad. I mean, that's the other thing too, is it's agonizing to think if you duplicate that first half that they did against Minnesota, they're 12-1 right now, which is just crazy to think. But if you are to,
well, they kind of for the first time they did something record-wise, you're like, yeah, that's what they're supposed to be. Well, you do the whole win-loss.
Yeah.
I think I couldn't find many people that didn't say, man, they could be 11-2. They actually have matched
and
I thought they would be.
And that's already different.
They're just 2 games that you swapped out. You swapped out Minnesota and K-State.
You did. But and that's already kind of different as far as maybe playing to the schedule where you didn't have the incarnate word Samford slip up. Okay. And that's good. Those are baby steps. So now we're talking about the in-conference play. An Indiana team that, and I would agree, is I watched them against Kansas, and they looked pretty decent, and especially with their bigs inside. But then we were all getting together watching them playing Morehead State, and they had to have like a thunderous comeback to beat Morehead State just days after. It kind of gives you an idea of what you're facing against Indiana. And I'll go back to this with what they have inside. Rink Mass, that's a big game time decision if he plays tonight. But if you're able to get out of or get into the new year out of that last non-conference spell with a win, all of a sudden that to me does get a little bit more of the, okay, we want to see if Nebraska was able to kind of learn from some of their mistakes and if they can give you a little bit more consistent brand of basketball. I think a win tonight, regardless of how it looks, goes a long way in that. So I think it goes a long way into the trust factor. That's probably the thing. Can you trust Nebraska basketball? Tonight would be a good step in that direction.
The Nebraska-Purdue game next week is on Peacock.
Sweet.
Oh, nice. Let's tie it all back together.
When Nebraska...
Do you like when they hit a three and they show the three fingers on the graphic? That's fun.
Yeah. Is it like a bird that makes...
No, it's just you see three fingers, because it's a cool thing.
I don't know. Every time now I see a guy in college hit a three and inject something into his veins.
Oh, yeah. That's the ice in the veins.
Doing his heroin celebration.
That's being way... Yeah, that it was fun when it first happened. Now it's everywhere.
Like if no students are on campus, even though I think you could buy a package to go to the games that are not and sit in the student section. Like if you beat the number one team in the country and there's no students on campus, who rushes the floor?
Oh, the older people.
Just asking.
It's really
for
slow.
A friend to prepare yourself for a week from now.
It's really, really slow, but it eventually happens. It's a lot of the middle-aged older people that get out there.
We're coming.
So,
Excuse me.
The
good game, son.
The realist Nebraska ball fan, they'll win tonight, they'll lose against Wisconsin, they'll break your heart against Purdue, and then they'll stumble against Iowa. The new Nebraska basketball fan will say, they'll win tonight, they'll lose at Wisconsin, they'll upset Purdue, and they'll lose at Iowa.
Yep. Now, that actually sounds more on point, on brand, where it's like,
that entire thing.
What am I supposed to think about this team?
I don't know.
You can beat the best, but you can also lose to the worst.
Purdue's on a different level. Well, they snapped Maryland's 19-game home winning streak yesterday. But it's Purdue. I don't know. I think there's two good teams, really good teams in the Big Ten. After that, there's some good teams. There's a good Wisconsin. Ohio State has surprised me. But I can only go. And Nebraska in any power ranking, they're going to be 5, 6, 7.
Yeah,
it just shows you where the league is at right now. I think they have two good teams. Waiting on Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's better than I thought they were going to be. Ohio State is better than I thought they would be. After that, up for grabs. But if you get to 5th in this conference, I think this would be a year you wouldn't have to worry about not getting in the NCAA.
Well, it's so inconsistent.
You go 10-10, you're fine.
I would agree. It's just like the league is so inconsistent. Like we saw Michigan State. That's Nebraska's only conference win. Looked great. It was that following Saturday that they just put it on a good Baylor team. I mean, it wasn't even close. So you see the good and bad, like we were talking about Indiana, extremely inconsistent. Hell, I mean, Minnesota's got 10 wins right now. So the consistency there, I think that's what you're kind of missing right now. Now, as we get into conference play, this is what's going to separate everybody. But yes, it's a conference that does not look like it's even close to being as deep.
All right, Lego Maniac writes in to the Equitable Bank inbox. If Nebraska has mass tonight, they can beat Indiana. Wow. It's all about one guy. Have you guys not forgotten that Jawan Gary plays for Nebraska? Without mass, no way Nebraska wins. Tell you who will be key tonight, whether mass plays or not, will be C.J. Wilcher. You watch that, what he does. And also how many times Indiana gets a free throw line. Indiana shoots a lot of free throws. They don't shoot them very well, but they get to the line on an average of 25 or more. And Nebraska doesn't foul a lot. Like you don't see a parade to the free throw line of teams that have played Nebraska so far this year. If Nebraska has mastered over the next 4 games, they can beat Indiana and Iowa and lose to Purdue and Wisconsin. So go 2-2 over that stretch. If Nebraska doesn't have mass, they will go 0-4 over that stretch. There goes the optimism out the window. Really? I know Rink Mast is good. Like he's good, and in the boomer bust world of the transfer portal with college basketball, he's a boom.
He's 28.
But really,
19.
if he doesn't play, and I mean, I think he's going to play tonight, but I think they will be very cautious on the 10 to 15 minute
Yeah,
window.
his minutes are going to.
I mean, 0-4, really. So
see, people don't want to completely buy in.
I know.
It's
See,
PTSD.
I'm
Fred,
looking
you gotta
at him.
You got to save the fan base.
I'm looking at him more
Win
of
tonight.
this matchup with Ware and Renault. That's as far as, I mean, yeah, obviously with Edie next week, but that having a big man that can actually be physical inside, it would go a long way. Otherwise, Juwan Gary's good, undersized compared to what he's going to be facing tonight. And same with Josiah Alec. So from the matchup tonight, because I think Nebraska checks a lot of other boxes, like that's why I think the Mass one's big tonight. I wouldn't say, boy, it's an 0-4 start if he doesn't play tonight, but yeah, just for tonight's matchup.
Andy writes in, he goes, I'm surprised the line is only 4.5. I've watched Indiana. You're right. They are very, very inconsistent. I think Nebraska's guards will have a big night. Surprised that the line is that low. Line seems right to me.
Let's see Casey have a big night.
Let's see. I have more than just a big night. Maybe get on a run here.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Hey, it's okay if he's not the number one guy every night.
Especially when you're winning.
36 past the hour. Matt DeMarinis a little bit later. Brandon Vogel as well. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. Hey, the NFL regular season is wrapping up. There's still time to get in on all the action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Now we're coming up to the end of the regular season. There are a lot of key games on the line. And right now, new customers with FanDuel, you can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose.
And new things to enjoy in 2024. App is easy to use, and of course, that hasn't changed, but many different ways to bet. And you can take advantage of the bets in the new Explore tab right now. You can always get the same game parlays, but also make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. That's the best way to find popular parlays and much more. Visit FanDuel.com. Use the promo code ZONE. That's FanDuel.com/zone. Make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in Iowa. First online real money wager. Only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipts. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Previously on The Crossover.
I want to hear the thank you at the end of it, too.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. When you order a Big Mac at McDonald's.
No, thank you.
Thank you, caller Connor.
Good job, Connor.
No, thank you.
Maybe it was Connor Stallion. No,
it could have been.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. The Connor Happer Show. Unsportsmanlike conduct. 6A to 6P. 1620. The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Watch out for patchy dense fog during the morning drive Wednesday. Any fog should lift by the late morning. Partly sunny skies in the afternoon, though staying chilly with highs in the low to mid-30s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
Visit KuglerVision.com today and check out their special New Year's savings. It's KuglerVision.com.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. No new accidents or slow-moving traffic to report about halfway through the 7 o'clock hour on this Wednesday morning. There is still some patchy fog in certain areas throughout the city, but nothing that should be impacting visibility. And just as a reminder, westbound center between 114th and 117th closed for the next few weeks for water main repair. Stay safe and wear those seatbelts, everybody. I'm Peter Krenzer.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Zoom Drain.
Zoom Drain's highly trained team of experts and our fleet of well-equipped service trucks are dedicated to providing solutions for homeowners, plumbing contractors, mechanical contractors, and business owners across many industries. Contact Zoom Drain anytime by logging on to zoomdrain.com.
Sure, you could go elsewhere for your health and wellness products, or better yet, why not just come to 42 Degrees? Those other places don't even come close to the wide variety and premium disposable e-juice, CBD, Delta, Kratom, glass pipes, vaporizers, and other great products. With the friendliest, most knowledgeable, and professional staff who will find the right products just for you. If you're looking for a one-stop shopping experience, look no further. 42 Degrees. By your mom's house.
Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style.
When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call on the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-659-8080. That's 1-800-659-8080. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-659-8080. That's 1-800-659-8080.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
Roofing, siding, and gutters. Make the right call with the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Now back to Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, welcome back in on the Zone on a Wednesday morning. Welcome back to people that are going back into the office, whether you work for the state of Nebraska or not. Welcome back. 7:43. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy here as well. Matt DeMarinis from White Blue Review coming up at the top of the hour. His thoughts on last night in D.C. Creighton men back home on Saturday. But more importantly, Creighton women home tonight for UConn, a game you could hear right here on the Zone. Into the Equitable Bank inbox from James and Laverna. Our discussion at the beginning of the show, if you not see it, Caitlin Clark did Caitlin Clark things last night. At the buzzer, hit a 40-footer from the beak on the floor at Carver Hawkeye. High-level game. Michigan State women's basketball, much improved, but Iowa pulled that game out. I have courtside tickets for Nebraska women's basketball, so I see Clark firsthand. I don't know why you guys are so in love with her, because every time a ref calls a foul on her, she complains and argues with the ref because she can't be a good example for young kids the way she argues.
A lot of kids argue. I was one of them.
Now,
I grew up with Bill Lane beer, though.
That's what stars do.
This is a fair observation. There are times where she is Ms. Palms up.
So now we're going Casey and Caitlin Clark here.
That's what yeah.
Hey, I could be men or women. If you go palms up, you're on my radar.
Your palms up person?
Yeah, she can be that way, but there's a lot more good that outweighs like any of that kind of stuff.
Like Casey.
Hey, you watch her after a game, the amount of young girls that stick around to get her autograph, and she signs autographs. I mean,
right.
She going into the locker room, I've seen her stop and sign numerous autographs, and then people wait for her after the game.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to.
Now I want to finish this email. Her first couple years at Iowa, she complained about everything.
Right.
I don't see her doing it as much.
Well, and I don't know if it was the case last year in Lincoln, and I remember Connor talking about this a lot too. Like, there was the whole, boo Caitlin Clark or whatever. And I think a little bit of that was the reputation, kind of what that emailer is referring to, is that there was a lot of kind of working the officials for calls, and that kind of got under people's skin. And I wonder now, as
but don't
everybody does
all-stars
that.
get calls?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you're not getting that, and that's kind of my point here, is
Tim Donaghy
when you've gotten to the status that she's at right now, where every little moment on the floor is going to be under a microscope too, that I feel like she's probably expected a certain way that she's going to be handled, not only defended, but also what she can and can't get away with. So I think that there was, I'll have to ask Connor this, but I remember there was a little bit of she was kind of easy to boo a little bit because of that fact, but
she leans into that. That's great.
Yeah.
Boo her all you want. I appreciate her as a competitor, that she leans into that. She gives it right back to you.
Well, and I'm
Thank
curious
you very
too.
much. You know who did that? You know who did that on a much higher level? They made a 10-part documentary about him. His name's Michael Jordan.
That's true. He didn't even create stuff.
Yeah, she leans into it.
I would say this about her too. That I'm curious when they play Nebraska, because you mentioned how she
boo her all you want.
She sticks around and
helps her.
She signs autographs. I'm curious on how much of the opposing fan base's kids line up to get autographs, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Nebraska little girls that want to get autographs, and she'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
All right. On Creighton, Matt writes in about Creighton's offense. It's because of Ashworth. We were talking about the point guard problem. He's terrible. There's more to this email. Not a Big East guard of any kind, especially a point guard. Seems like a really good kid, but man, is a huge problem. It causes problems all the way down the line.
Might be active at the trade deadline.
Anybody disagreeing?
I wish I
wouldn't
could
say he's terrible. But
yeah, it's just different than what they had with Ryan Nembhard. And even so use last night as an example. The one thing that Ryan Nembhard did, you brought this up, and I totally agreed. Nembhard would put the ball on the ground, and he'd get going. He would create points that way. Last night, you're watching as things kind of broke down for Georgetown there in the second half. Trey had no problem doing that. Baylor had no problem doing that. And I don't know if Stephen Ashworth was necessarily, if that was his role, but I felt like if there was a game for him to kind of create a little bit, especially in the second half, the way that they were breaking down Georgetown's defense, it would have been that game. And again, it almost feels like I got to go all the way back to the Arizona State game, where he actually had a really strong presence, where he had, shot very well early, got everybody else involved, and then all of a sudden you saw the offense kind of take off from there. And that Arizona State game was a long time ago. Like, that's the last time that I can remember where his impact early on was felt offensively. So a game like last night, I felt like that's, if there's a game to kind of get out of a funk a little bit, or to help yourself out a little bit as far as what you can do production wise, it would have been last night. It still just wasn't great.
John, Jays are in trouble. Tons of turnovers versus a terrible team. The reason Call came back is because he had no chance in the NBA. I love Cooley. He has nothing but in 1 and 2 years. Look out. That's from John. Back to the Caitlin Clark thing about asking for a foul. You think it's time for Trey Alexander to do that? Trey Alexander gets mugged.
He does. He does.
He gets absolutely mugged. And does he not have any cachet in the Big East to get a call or two? He's one of the best players in that league.
You would think he would.
He doesn't get none of this stuff. He does not draw the attention, gets mugged, and there's no whistle that comes after it.
There was now I'm thinking about one yesterday, and I can't remember if it was the first or
25 yesterday, but he
first
could
or
have,
second
he could have
half,
spent majority of that second half at the free throw line.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He was getting knocked down quite a bit, and that's been kind of the case. That's a good point about him. Thinking about the game last night too, but when he does, and we talked about Trey trying to get going, and when he's hitting the mid-range jumper, you feel good about his game, but also trying to whether it's going to be a part of his game or not, trying to be able to get to the rim, finish at the rim. When he does take contact, he takes a lot of contact, and you're right. Seldom does he get that call.
Wasn't that a Marcus Foster? Marcus Foster never got a call when he was playing here. A little bit rugged style.
Yeah, you kind of put your head down and go.
You get into contact.
Well,
but Marcus Foster never got benefits of calls.
And isn't it the officials though? If they know you sort of have that propensity to, again, sort of be a little bit chaotic on your drive, like you're a little bit out of control, that they're not typically going to give you the benefit of that. If you're a lot more controlled and your vision's good and you're going up to the rim in a clear path as opposed to just kind of bowling through guys, you're probably not going to get that call.
All right, when we come back, a full breakdown on the bourbon boobs. We'll do that when we come back. Also, Matt DeMarinis.
That's a tease.
After the top of the hour. Brandon Vogel a little bit later. Nebraska is loading up this weekend. Actually, tomorrow they'll have a wide receiver on campus, and I don't know why that particular wide receiver. That to come as we roll till 10 on a Wednesday morning. Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Big names, big games. We've got them all. 1620 The Zone.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, CEO and founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. And in the process, started what's now called the timeshare cancellation industry. Timeshare is the only thing that you can buy that you can't tell me how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check to fill out any amount they want for annual maintenance and assessment fees. The crazy thing is, this never ends. Even when you die, your family's now going to be stuck with this burden. Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call for your free information kit. 800-462-3333. That's 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-659-8080. That's 1-800-659-8080. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-659-8080. That's 1-800-659-8080.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard. Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long. And with Babbel, it isn't hard. It's perfect.
Start learning a new language today. Go to Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
1620 The Zone at 1620thezone.com. Now back to Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, so ESPN yesterday apologized for the bourbon boob, but they didn't apologize for Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee. Well, Aaron Rodgers in that agreement, and they pay him well.
Yeah, it's like
$1 million. Actually, it's genius for McAfee. It might get him into hot water, but Aaron Rodgers, when they agreed to that and they went to ESPN, must have said, I need the freedom. I need the freedom to say whatever. But ESPN apologized for what was shown during the Sugar Bowl. If you did not catch it, maybe you don't have internet at your house, because everybody was talking about this. And they apologized yesterday. So I broke down the picture.
No need.
The little video. Here's the thing about that video that I found out yesterday. It's pre-recorded. So it's B-roll.
Yeah.
So
somebody didn't
probably
catch
from the night before.
Somebody did not catch that.
Yeah.
Maybe they're from New Orleans, and that's just typical because that's Bourbon Street behavior. Is you do a little flash, you get a little beat. But I broke down the whole thing.
You did a good
Shot
job.
at the Drifter Hotel.
Including the woman to her right that seemed appalled, or was at least trying to say, no, don't do that.
Well, you got to understand that when you're flashing, the professional flasher, they have no TV awareness because they do it.
Yeah.
I don't really, I'm not in Girls Gone Wild. The ones that want to flash for TV awareness, I got no time for you. I like the au naturels.
Yeah.
And that's what she was. She was oblivious to the TV being there. But here's the other thing about it. And she can do whatever she wants. It's a free country. Some countries, you can be topless and it doesn't matter. Even in places in this country, you can be naked and it doesn't matter. Okay. But in this case,
especially the climate.
I mean, it's not for everyone. Yeah. Okay. The boob is not for everyone. Some of us enjoyed it a lot more when we were younger. But here's the thing about being young. So as the camera pans and off to the right, you catch her. And it was pre-recorded, so nobody back in the truck noticed it and they let it air.
Yeah.
The woman that is pushing the kid in the stroller. Now, the woman is oblivious. Maybe it's, I've been there, done that. Once you've seen one, you've seen them.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But the kid is staring at the woman.
Lunch.
Here's my question. Is anybody going to bring up the fact, I don't have a problem with the boob? Okay?
And that's the main takeaway.
She wasn't trying to get attention from the camera. She knew the camera was there.
Yeah, she was not doing it for me.
Yeah.
She was doing it for the bead.
Yep.
She's doing it for us.
But is anybody going to bring up
the bead?
Is anybody going to and we've all been there. I think so. The tourists compared to the locals on Bourbon Street is it stands out. But is anybody going to bring up the fact that it's 11 o'clock at night and a woman is pushing her kid in a stroller down Bourbon Street?
Damn straight.
What are we doing with parenting?
There you go.
In this
Overreact
country.
to boobs.
There you go.
We want to get upset about a naked boob. Why are we not talking about a woman pushing her kid in a stroller at 11 o'clock at night on January 1 on Bourbon Street?
It's like having the baby in the carrier in the sports bar at past midnight.
Baby's first hurricane.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it didn't have one in the sippy cup.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm shocked that hasn't
Is that
been
ever
brought up.
clear?
I am absolutely shocked that hasn't been brought up, of the parenting choice right there. Yeah, you make life choices when you're on Bourbon Street, especially when you don't have any responsibilities. You just do.
Which is why she may
But
have the kid.
clearly someone had a responsibility right there, and it's past 11 o'clock
Hey, lady.
on Bourbon Street.
Lady, if you want to be on Bourbon Street after 11, don't have a kid.
I agree.
Leave the kid at home. Get a babysitter.
Or,
but why do we have it in a stroller? I've been to Bourbon Street when it's dark out and when it's light. I'm iffy on that. 50-50. I've just smelled enough vomit in my lifetime to do me. But what do you expect? You're like, hey, this is a good idea. Let's show the kid who's 4 what this is going to be.
Yeah, this is going to be a great cultural experience for him.
Should save this line of questioning for Amy on Monday. She can give you a full breakdown.
Well,
of living down there.
I mean, there's so many questions of we're going on vacation. Why are you bringing your 4-year-old?
She'll tell you the lay of the land. I know you're trying to get me into a corner here.
That'll be a topic that I probably will avoid.
Oh,
I don't know where that would go.
Jimmy might be the only one who can have that conversation.
Well, yeah, she was someone who always spoke highly of her city.
Oh, okay.
Mostly because it was warm. I don't know what you guys are trying to infer here.
Mm-hmm. Just gonna leave it like that. To wrap my point about the parenting, though, if you're going on a vacation, are you bringing your 4-year-old? And if you are going to go to New Orleans, I'm with you. At 11 o'clock, are you going to have that kid with you? Because there's some spots off Bourbon Street too that you do not want to go.
Think she was a tourist, or do you think she was a local?
Ooh, see, maybe. Okay,
I want to go local.
If she, It would be probably, well, I don't know if it'd be better.
She lives in Metairie.
Yeah, maybe she lived close by.
Hey, that place used to produce so many Nebraska football players. That's the only reason I know that town. All right. Matt DeMarinis will chime in on this coming up next.
Good. We need to know this.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Don't sell Matt short.
We'll talk some hoops amongst other things when Matt joins us next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time Saving Traffic Center. No new accidents or slow-moving traffic to report about halfway through the 7 o'clock hour on this Wednesday morning. There is still some patchy fog in certain areas throughout the city, but nothing that should be impacting visibility. And just as a reminder, westbound center between 114th and 117th closed for the next few weeks for water main repair. Stay safe and wear those seatbelts, everybody. I'm Peter Krenzer.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by IBEW Local 22.
The electrical market requires your company to adjust to an ever-changing field. IBEW Local 22 gives you flexibility with access to journeymen, apprentices, and proven training programs. Call Bob at IBEW Local 22 for details at 402-980-7596.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-434-3366. That's 1-800-434-3366. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-434-3366. That's 1-800-434-3366.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
Hey folks, Kent Pavelka again to tell you about your local concrete experts at Everlevel Concrete Repair. Now, if you have cracked, uneven concrete, Everlevel can fix it at a fraction of the cost compared to replacement. This is no Band-Aid. Their products are built to last. It gives your concrete the durable protection it needs, and there's still time. I chose Everlevel for my driveway, and I've got peace of mind with their long-term transferable warranty. Everlevel's products and customer service are top-notch, and that's why they've been voted Best of Omaha again this year. Say it with me. Everlevel, Everlevel, Everlevel.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
KOZ and Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, good ball tonight down at Sokol. Gino and his 10 players have injuries again, but Paige Beckers, Leah Edwards is here. Great women's college basketball game tonight. Number 12, UConn. Number 21, Creighton. Down at Sokol. Tip-offs at 6. You can hear it here on The Zone. We'll talk about last night's Creighton men's win out in D.C. as we welcome in our good friend from Matt DeMarinis from White and Blue Review. Happy New Year, my friend.
Merry New Year, fellas. How are you?
Good. Hey, you have been You love all sports, but you like women's sports as well, and you know whether it be volleyball or women's basketball, the game really well. Caitlin Clark has done what for the sport of women's basketball in the last 2 years?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't even know how to put it into words what she's done for it, because I feel like every time, I mean, I can't remember a reaction like a shot last night. I think social media has obviously helped because you just get kind of access to the skill that's actually on display, and it's less about, you know, beat writers having to tell you, hey, these kids are really good, you should be watching them, all that. Like, if you actually see it, you believe it. And, you know, just, I mean, that was just an unbelievable shot, but it's becoming less unbelievable when Caitlin does it. I mean, everyone in the arena, everyone watching who has a Peacock subscription knew that they were going to get her the ball late and that she was going to, you know, make that move. And Stewart Patton step back. Michigan State knew it. They defended it really well, and she still catched it. I mean, that's just true greatness right there. When thousands of people know what's about to happen, when millions of people watch you know what's about to happen, and when the other team does all it can possibly do physically to stop it from happening and it still happens. I mean, there's just no way to assess that other than just absolute brilliance. And I think, you know, the skill that she puts on display, and I don't know, the swagger she has, because she's really confident in herself. And I think it polarizes her to a degree, because if you love her, you love it. If you hate her, you hate it. So I think it just attracts a lot of eyeballs from either direction. And then that creates all of that noise generates buzz for the sport itself. And I think, you know, if you're a young girl now playing a sport, you see her and you want to be her. And that's kind of like, that goes back to the Michael Jordan branding way back when, the Be Like Mike Gatorade commercials. Like, you can see it, you can believe it. That's kind of what Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball and women's sports in general. You know, there's actually like a tangible dream now for young women in the country.
She's been set back by a couple of injuries the last couple of years, but wasn't Paige Beckers supposed to be the Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark became Caitlin Clark?
100%. I'm actually like knocking on wood all day, because I have not seen her in person yet because of the injuries she's dealt with. And then the first year she came to Omaha, it was the COVID year. So, yeah, I'm excited to finally see her in person, because I've certainly watched a lot of her when she's, you know, been on TV. And, you know, honestly, like, she doesn't, I don't know if she has the notoriety that Caitlin does anymore, just because of all the injuries that have derailed what she's done. But she's up there with her. I mean, there's not a lot of difference in terms of their skill sets. I think Paige is actually more efficient than Caitlin, just because, you know, she does it in a different way, but, you know, she has more steals than turnovers. She shoots over 50% from the field from three, 80% from the line. I mean, she's just a ruthlessly efficient player, has a nasty pull-up game, super skilled with the ball in her hand, solid defensively. Like, if people like Caitlin Clark and think she's, you know, a one of one, I hope you're at Sokol tonight, or I hope you're watching somewhere, because Paige is definitely in that class in terms of skill sets. And they're going to get a show tonight, one way or the other.
Well, and Matt, it's interesting when you think of whether we're talking about Paige Beckers or Caitlin Clark or just this UConn team, when they go to different venues, obviously fans come out there, they're going to support Creighton, but there's also that I'm seeing something besides just rooting for the home team. And I always think that kind of defines certain players and certain teams as special. And UConn, even though it's not that vintage UConn team, you know their impact on college basketball, whether we're talking men's or women's. And so does it feel like when they do come to Omaha that there's a lot of people going, they're going to support Creighton, but they're also kind of there to kind of be in awe of Gina Auriemma, Paige Beckers, and just that whole UConn machine?
Guys, have you been to either of the last two UConn?
I have not.
Games
I went last year, and I was highly disappointed.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, the game was disappointing, but the crowd and the attention that UConn's players draw and Gino draws, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, so you have that little hallway, that narrow kind of corridor where like there's an intersection between like fans, players, media, where they're all trying to get to different places. It's like a Hollywood walk, like a sidewalk, where it's just like people stopping for selfies, autographs. I mean, it just feels like it's nothing like you'll ever experience.
Yeah.
And even when Paige was hurt, she's standing on the sideline in a jumpsuit and just, 10, 20, 30 little girls running up to her for autograph the ball, take a picture. Azy Fubb was the same way when she was injured. Gino stopping for selfies after the game. He must have took like 4 or 5 selfies, shook hands with people, and we're just trying to get to the press conference.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen anything like it. They are like a Hollywood movie script playing out in front of your eyes. So yeah, there's a lot of buzz there, but and it's gonna be fun because I think Creighton is right now they're playing at a really high level. When you look at all these metrics between these two teams, like it's a top 10 to top 20 matchup no matter where you slice it. Lauren Jensen and Paige Beckers are, the only 2 players in the country averaging 15 points, 4 boards, 3 assists with less than 2 turnovers a game. I mean, so that's a wild matchup in itself right there. 2 Minnesota kids. They were both first team All-State coming out of high school, and they took different paths, obviously, to their success. But yeah, that's going to be a premier kind of off-guard matchup there between those two, and it's going to be a fun game.
So go back to last year. So went to the game last year, and the result, it was a one-sided game. I mean, it was a blowout, and I mean, for the first time that I can remember watching a Flan team, they just looked demoralized and had no answer.
Yep.
And then they go out and they play in Connecticut, and the game comes down to the final seconds, and that was a heartbreaker. Isn't part of playing Creighton, and I agree with you, this is a great matchup, and I don't think there's much separation between UConn and Creighton, and they're both coming off an impressive win. I mean, nobody can discount what Creighton did against St. John's. St. John's has improved. That was a physical game. They won on Sunday. Of course, UConn beat Marquette. But isn't the whole thing about playing Connecticut, whether you're Creighton, whether you're Marquette, whether you're Tennessee, whatever, is just believing that you can be on the floor with them and not get overwhelmed by, like you were alluding to, all the attention and the aura that is Gino? Because there is something, when you see him, you're like, oh my gosh, there's Gino Auriemma.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think if you ask every single player on Creighton's roster candidly why the game in Omaha went the way it did and why the game at Gamble went the way it did, I think they just got they got punched early and thought, this is UConn. We're not coming back from a double-digit lead against them the way they're playing right now. But you go to Gamble like a month and a half later, and they just had a different mindset. They just had an attacker's mindset. Like, no matter what UConn does, no matter how many runs they go on, we're going to be right there to punch back. And that's kind of the way the game went. And honestly, like, the other thing that is going to kind of, I don't know how much sticking with them. I think it probably is a little bit, but it's, they're far removed from it. So they probably got over it at some point. But I know it made them mad the rest of the season, and it kind of fueled their end of season streak that they went on. Is people talk about the San Diego State game in terms of officiating bugaboos that Creighton's dealt with, but the fact of the matter is, like, Ryan Nemhart did foul that guy, did foul Darian Trammell.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it wasn't a foul for the last 39 minutes and 57 seconds, but it was a foul on that play for sure. The game where a Creighton team really got hosed by an officiating crew was the one at Gamble. I mean, Carly Batchelor had a clean block shot, and they called it a foul, and that's how UConn took the lead in the last 5 seconds. Like, definitively no contact there, and all ball. Rachel Saunders picked up her 4th and 5th fouls within 10 seconds of each other in the last 3 minutes. Like, that's the game that pissed them off because they felt like it got taken away from them after they played so well to win it. And if you know how hard it is to win at Gamble, like, no one's won there in 10 years. So, they played really well to get that, to do that. And now they're going to face a team that has Paige Beckers back, that's dealt with some injuries, but they're playing really well right now. And their young kids are doing a lot better. Like, KK Arnold is the star in the making. But yeah, Creighton's kind of got to get past that name on the front of the jersey and all the buzz that's in the arena for UConn, because it is going to be more of a split. Like UConn travels well to some degree, but they also bring a casual audience from all around the country to them.
Yeah.
That's the other part of it too. It's not going to be a dominant Creighton crowd tonight. So they're going to have to kind of get used to the fact that UConn's success is going to be celebrated in their own gym, and they have to be able to handle it, because I think I looked it up yesterday. UConn averages 2 to 3 runs per game of 8 or more. They're spurty, but Creighton's got to be able to kind of weather that and just accept the fact that UConn's capable of that. You're going to get punched. You got to be able to punch back. You have to have some resolve, because the game's not going to go perfectly. You're not going to wire to wire a UConn team that's good, as good offensively as they are.
And Matt, I know what a win like this can do for Creighton in this season, if we're talking about the micro, but the macro too, for this basketball program, and especially with Jim Flannery, who's done some great things. The Elite Eight appearances 2 years ago. I mean, there's some great things that have been on Jim Flannery's watch right now. What would, in your estimation, what would a win against UConn, just from an overall program perception, do for Creighton women's basketball?
Yeah, I've had a tough time with this one, because we did the media scrum yesterday, and most of the questions were kind of about that, and and I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to see what the reaction would be, because the other thing is, like, even going back to 2022 when Creighton won at Iowa, that didn't shock me.
Yeah.
I thought going in, I've seen Creighton beat Iowa before in NCAA tournament games. I knew it was going to be tough because of the environment, because Caitlin's different than like Megan Gustafson was, the team that Creighton beat before. But I knew Creighton had matchup problems all over the floor for Iowa, and I wasn't shocked that game went down the way it did. But the reaction to like how much more ground Creighton had to make in terms of like public perception, that kind of surprised me a little bit. Like they were, like a darling for those 2 weeks, and I didn't think there was a lot of a gap there in the women's basketball community to make up, but there was. So I think now when I'm watching this Creighton team, I just think they've been that team for the last 3-4 years now. And so, like, what would a UConn win do to enhance them any further? I don't know how much ground there is to make up, because they've been a top 15 to top 20 program the last 4 years. And I guess I'd have to see the reaction to understand what it is.
Yeah.
But right now, I feel like this game is less about UConn's aura and more about like two teams that have the ability to create problems for each other. So it just depends on how it goes down, I guess, Sorry, I just don't feel like I haven't figured out a way to answer.
Well, and it's weird too, Matt, because they're still a top 25 team. They're in all indications they could be a top 10 team, but they're not the number 1, number 2 team, and they haven't been for the past couple of years. Like, I don't know if that takes a little bit away from it as well.
Well, I mean, Xavier is one of the worst teams in women's basketball. Xavier is one of the worst women's basketball teams in the country, and they took UConn to the wire last year. At the final. I mean, 18 losses in league play. They were getting skunked, and they played UConn tough. Like Gino, went scorched earth in the presser after that game. Like I think it was one of the most hard to figure out things he's seen in his coaching career. But like the game is like catching up to itself. There's not a lot of where you get a ranked team versus an unranked team, and you're lucky if it stays within 30. Like there's a lot of parity in women's basketball now, and there's a lot of skill on every roster all over the place. So upsets are like less shocking to you. You just look at matchups and it plays out, and you can kind of see why things go the way they do. I mean, Michigan State going into Iowa last night, Michigan State's not a top 5 team in the country, right? But they go to the wire, and Caitlin Clark needs to dot a logo for a dub. So, that's just kind of the way the game is right now. So I don't know what Creighton's profile. I don't know what happens to Creighton's profile with a win over UConn. I know it would be, a milestone in their program, because beating UConn is beating UConn no matter what. Yeah. But I think the team thinks it can beat UConn. So I don't know how much it would do beyond just, getting a signature win for this team's season.
Matt DeMarinis joining us from White and Blue Review. If you have not checked out White Blue Review. The pregame primer is a must, and also after a game, when Matt sits down with Jacob Padilla or whoever does a podcast, they are must listen. Let me ask you about last night's game. So on the heels of Marquette playing at sleepy Georgetown, if you had not watched Creighton all year, and that was the first game that you watched, what did that game tell you about that team that was wearing the road uniform?
I think it would tell you that Trey Alexander and Baylor Shireman are probably two of the best, like two of the most dynamic wing perimeter players in the country, just because of all that they can do, scoring, rebounding, facilitating, defending. I think it would tell you that there's probably some, matchup issues that Creighton has to account for effort-wise, just because there's some physical limitations with length and quickness that are out there in certain spots. And I think if you watch the first half, you'd probably see that the team looks a little bit disjointed offensively in terms of, I don't know, I felt like, to me, it was about confidence level and just making the right play that's there. Whether it was being hesitant on a shot that's created out of what they try to create, or whether it's just kind of getting caught in between space and decision making, whether you're leaving your feet before you know what you're doing with it, or whether you kind of get caught and trapped and, you feel like you're 2 seconds away from losing the ball anyway. So you just force a pass and it ends up being a turnover for sure. I think that's something that was apparent in the first half. The second half was better in terms of decision making and slowing the game down and, making the right read and the right play and executing off of that. So if you put those two halves together, I think you look at something that's a little bit disjointed right now offensively. Defensively, it looks like simple scenario, funnel everything to Kalkbrenner, defend the three like they do, force teams to take tough twos and shoot over Kalkbrenner and, be an efficient defensive team that way and make up for it with efficient offense. So, there'd be some boxes you check where you go, oh, okay, that's a team that could make a run in March. And there's also some boxes where you could check that you could be like, okay, I could see that team being an early out.
Yeah, and I'm with you defensively. I thought they were pretty sound, especially there in the second half. But what I would also say when it comes to the turnovers, we were going over this as far as what we've seen with the turnovers, and it something that I kind of noticed yesterday, and I saw a little bit of it in the Marquette game too, where angles and entry passes. And I know it's an emphasis to get it into Kalkbrenner, and sometimes you don't. It seems like this offense, when they're kind of losing a little bit of their identity, that Kalkbrenner's not getting touches. I'm curious where you're at, where you've seen maybe the more alarming turnovers here in the past couple of games, especially in the first half yesterday.
The more alarming ones are just kind of like where there's just a bad, I don't know how to describe it, but like a connection between the receiver and the passer. Like, because there's times where I think they want to get the ball to Kalkbrenner. Like, I don't think they're trying to ice out their big man. Like, they want the ball to go in there, but defenses are just so in tune with trying to make it hard for them to do that. That when they get in there, they have to kind of make another decision. And a lot of the decisions I see them making are just like getting into the lane where you want to be as an offensive player. You want to put 2 feet in the paint and you want to be able to spray the ball to different options. Whether it's the wing, whether it's a dump off to the big man, whether it's a lob, whether it's a finish yourself or whether it's a kick out three, to someone lifting on the wing or the top of the key. Like it's a simple game, but when you get in there and you set your feet, you have options all around you in theory, because you've made the defense have to scramble to recover to you. And I think, especially in Marquette, when they started, when they were up 11, all of a sudden, they just started to not handle that length and pressure very well. That was kind of flowing around them, and the pass didn't have assertiveness to it. It wasn't really a confident decision, and then there was times where the receiver wasn't really ready to catch it, or they were caught in the middle of a cut, and the pass was off, and they either fumbled it or it went straight out of bounds. We saw a couple of those type of turnovers last night too. So, some of those you just live with, and you understand there's going to be miscommunication throughout a 40-minute game. But when they pile up like that, I mean, you should not be turning the ball over 11 times against Georgetown. They don't they don't force turnovers. Their defense isn't very put together in terms of its connectedness. Like that's more a miscue on your part when it piles up to that degree, as opposed to a defense forcing you into something. So, yeah, I think that's the type of turnovers I'm seeing as a trend now for 3 straight games of Big East play that probably need to be shut down significantly because, like I said, this team has to make up for its athletic deficiencies with efficiency. They have to be efficient on both ends of the floor, and if they're giving away 25 to 30 of their possessions without getting a shot on the rim, they're not going to win games like that. So,
I agree. That's a great line. Matt, as always, we appreciate it. Look forward to tonight and all the coverage. And, of course, a big one coming up on Saturday afternoon when Mr. Carter and Providence roll into town.
Yep.
Hey, thank you. Have a good
night
and a good week. That's Matt DeMarinis joins us every Wednesday on the show. Creighton men get Providence, Creighton women tonight against UConn, and Gino is here. Seen Gino a handful of times. He's one of those coaches that when you see him, you're like, there goes Gino. I remember
He's got a way about him.
Remember when they played a non-con at Nebraska? Was it about 5, 6 years ago? That was when he talked about Jess Shepard.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah,
I was like, he just has a presence.
Yeah,
very very accommodating guy. But their media, so they cover women's basketball like on the level of not as many people, but on the level of intensity and coverage wise as like Nebraska football. It's crazy to see their traveling media base. Now I don't know if it'll is still as large as it used to be, but they treat women's basketball differently at UConn. That'll be fun tonight. Again, I'm glad there's always pressure of, hey, we can sell more tickets. Let's move across the street. Oh, stay right in your home court where you got a great advantage, and you hope that majority of your fans who are very very loyal will be rooting for you. But yeah, there's the looky-loos that
there is
like
gonna
UConn.
Be.
Because I'd go see Edwards and Beckers play.
Yeah, to see Beckers, the same thing with Iowa too. Like I would go to support Creighton or I would go to support Nebraska, but if I was playing, also I'm there to see the show. And this one is kind of interesting too because it's such a storied program that even a UConn team that's not considered to be like a national championship favorite, they're still relevant, they're still ranked, and Gino's still coaching. Like if there's a different coach on the sideline, Gino retires, probably doesn't have the same type of like cachet of, oh my gosh, but there's something about that head coach. It'd be the same thing when Bobby Knight was kind of at the end of his time too, where it's like, whether they were a good team or a bad team, you as a basketball fan, you kind of wanted to see it just because that is a historical figure when it comes to that sport.
Yeah. People used to want to see Miami football and Georgetown basketball. Also probably Nebraska football is in there as well.
Yeah.
They all have lost some aura. Georgetown has lost it major. But when we come back, we'll talk about can Ed Cooley save Georgetown? And I will pose a question about the expanded playoff when it comes to Nebraska, Iowa, and Wisconsin. We'll do that coming up. Brandon Vogel in about an hour or so on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. The Connor Happer Show.
Why do you want to shut up Greg Sankey?
Guy talks too much.
He's cool.
He compared the college football playoff to Sesame Street.
He's an elitist for his own conference, just like we are elitists for our own show, Josh.
Well,
we say this is the best show, and there is no other show that's better than this. And everybody, if you listen to other shows, you're like watching Sesame Street.
One of these things is not like the other.
Okay.
I also love cookies.
The Connor Happer Show. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Watch out for patchy dense fog during the morning drive Wednesday. Any fog should lift by the late morning. Partly sunny skies in the afternoon, though staying chilly with highs in the low to mid-30s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. Earlier accidents have been cleared up, and some slow-moving traffic that was happening on Dodge has cleared up as well. Doesn't look like anything else is too congested at this time, so Things looking pretty good in the 8 o'clock hour. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. Remember, wear those seatbelts, stay safe. I'm Peter Krenzer.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Zoom Drain.
Dealing with any type of plumbing issue can be overwhelming, especially if it's related to your drain or sewer lines. Thankfully, Zoom Drain specializes in drain and sewer services of all scopes. Contact Zoom Drain anytime by logging on to zoomdrain.com.
It's the most time-honored tradition to start the weekend, grabbing a cold one from a local Nebraska brewery. Let's be real here. It's cold outside, and you don't want to drink the same boring beer as those Hawkeye fans. Drink Nebraska-brewed beer, cider, or seltzers instead. Each week, we're putting the spotlight on a unique Nebraska brewery with One Beer Friday. Share your brew on social media with the hashtag One Beer Friday, and you'll be entered to win a $25 gift card to a local Nebraska brewery. Nebraska is the good life with great beer. Click nebraska.beer to learn more.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
The $5 cravings box is back at Taco Bell, and it's the real thing. We're talking a Chalupa Supreme, a cheesy, beefy 5-layer burrito, a crunchy taco, cinnamon twist, and a medium drink, all for just $5. That's a lot of food for not a lot of dollars. In other words, a wise business deal, like greeting clients with a firm handshake and a delicious 3-course meal that's only $5. Order your $5 cravings box on the Taco Bell app today. At limited participating U.S. Taco Bell locations for a limited time only while supplies last. Contact local store for price and participation which vary. Drinks exclude freezes. Price excludes tax.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees. The Source. By your mom's house.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. hims.com/radio.
Creighton Sports Update. It's a big upcoming weekend for Creighton basketball. The men's team will be at home in the CHI Health Center Saturday at 1 p.m. to take on Providence. Women's basketball hits the road to take on DePaul in Chicago Saturday at 3 p.m. To purchase your tickets and follow along on all things Creighton athletics, visit gocreighton.com. And that's your Creighton Sports Update.
1620 The Zone proudly supports Creighton Athletics.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, a lot of discussion about the bourbon boob. So there's a website that figured out that ESPN shot that B-roll at about 10:45. They aired it at 11.
Yeah, I saw on the stream that we had somebody bring it up that could have been at 7 o'clock. So don't.
Which is fair.
Max was saying he was standing by stroller lady. Yeah, so if that's any time, first of all, if it's dark out and you're on Bourbon Street, the crazies are going to come out anyway. I think you might be onto something that was a local, because I think that's when you're going to feel confident that you can go through Bourbon Street as a local, not as a tourist. If you're a tourist and you're doing that, I got to question your parenting skills.
All right, big day in Nebraska because Gino Auriemma is here with his UConn women's basketball team, and Hiroki Tominaga is in town.
Yes,
to support his son, his Nebraska.
All 7'8" of them. He keeps crowing every time we talk about him.
We can't forget about mom.
She's so small.
Yeah. So dad played center.
Yeah.
Son got mom's jeans.
Yes.
Can you imagine Casey being that tall?
But having that shooting ability. Oh my gosh.
So the Tominagas are
like
here.
Victor Wembanyama.
I don't think he'd be here.
4.5-point favorite Nebraska and Indiana tonight. Tip-off is at 8 o'clock. And ironically, there's a lot of comparisons between past success between Indiana basketball and Nebraska football. And I'm tying this into Georgetown because watching the game last night, it's pathetic.
It's sad if you grew up at a certain time watching Georgetown.
It's pathetic. They're playing in the NBA, NHL arena, and I wonder what's going to happen to them when the Wizards and the Capitals are moving to the burbs.
Again.
Georgetown basketball has no crowd. You can hear, even on the CBS Sports Network broadcast, you can hear individual fans last night. They have no presence. It seems like whenever Creighton plays there nobody goes to the games. And then when you watch other games, nobody goes to the game. But Ed Cooley took the job, and I like Ed Cooley. I think he's got a really, really big challenge. But in the portal world, you can get there sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if he can fix Georgetown, because Georgetown, I was actually at the Georgetown basketball funeral. Did you guys know that?
Mm-mm.
I was there, and I had a front row seat.
To the Florida Gulf Coast game?
The night Florida Gulf Coast beat Georgetown. That killed Georgetown basketball. Dead, haven't come back. They've kind of done the half Undertaker where they've popped up and they went to the NCAA tournament. Remember in the COVID year?
Yes.
They beat Creighton.
They won the Big East tournament?
Yeah. Then they got crushed by Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
But Georgetown basketball, dead. I don't know if Ed Cooley, as good as Ed Cooley is, if he can revive it, because there is no buzz whatsoever. But there's a lot of these programs that 15, 20 years ago used to be at the top of their sport, but have lost an aura. I'll start with Miami football. We saw what Miami football was like this year and in their bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Cristobal, he didn't know if the clock goes forward or backwards. Okay? He's got a major, major issue.
Shout out Mike McCarthy.
Hey, they attract all this talent because they got money, and they send guys to the NFL. I don't know. At some point, I'd like to win football games.
Yeah.
But Miami football, in my opinion, lost its aura when they left the old Orange Bowl. In the old Orange Bowl, they had dudes aplenty. But there was something about playing in that stadium that you were like, oh,
the
no.
OB.
Okay.
Their last game, they were blown out.
They move essentially to the burbs, nicer stadium.
Yep.
But they lost the aura.
Mm-hmm.
Georgetown basketball, Big John, not there. The late John Thompson, that aura. John Thompson on the sidelines was worth what, 5 to 7 points for Georgetown?
That was intimidating.
Just like Tom Osborne. Tom Osborne on the sidelines for Nebraska, along with the helmet, that was a good 7 to 10 point lead before he ever started the game.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana basketball, Bobby Knight, they had an aura.
Striped pants.
And then playing in Assembly Hall, you're like, oh, geez.
You factor that in.
So that was already 4 to 5 points. Interesting how all these programs that used to be good in the past, like they lost that aura, whether it be a coach or I think Miami with a facility that they can't get back to where they once were.
And the Georgetown thing, I remember we were talking about this when you could hell, we were probably talking about it this time last year because you knew the writing was on the wall for Patrick Ewing that, he's not coming back. I always said, because I remember in the 90s, there was a cool factor to Georgetown. And it's a lot like Miami, too. When you think of Miami, I'm like, there was that cool factor.
All four of these programs, I'm not going to say Indiana because I don't think Indiana Bobby Knight wasn't cool.
That wasn't cool. But you respected it.
And Nebraska football here was cool.
Yeah.
Outside, people thought Nebraska football was the worst thing going. But there was the cool factor.
Yes.
Yeah, they were cool programs. You bought the gear.
Yeah.
You became a fan even if you didn't live in D.C. or in Miami.
Right. Like I had a Georgetown starter jacket because it was cool. And other than maybe, knowing Allen Iverson and Patrick Ewing playing basketball for Georgetown, I couldn't tell you what the roster was year in and year out. But it was cool to don the gear and to get the cool shorts. And for Ed Cooley, this kind of goes back to the day and age of where we used to think, well, recruits all they like is the uniforms. You got to get the cool alternate uniforms in football, and that's what they like. Like there's so much out there that now attracts recruiting. You can use your history to an extent.
Money.
Exactly, and so and that's exactly where I'm going. I'm really interested in the investment of that program, of the collective, because it's a proud program. You have a very strong alumni base. There's a thirst to get back, especially in the Big East, getting back into the Big East and having that type of success that they had regularly to be considered amongst the top half. There's got to be an investment there. I can't imagine that that's not part of the plan going forward with Ed Cooley. So the days of like, being the cool team because of the gear and how they look, that stuff, it's so secondary to how you can win now and still make Georgetown cool again. Like, I'm thinking about that.
I want Georgetown to be good.
I do too.
I mean, I love Ed Cooley. I would love Georgetown to be good with Ed Cooley, but it's like, I don't know if it. Do I take any solace in that Miami football is not very good right now? Do I go, aha, yeah, because I remember those 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
I kind of want I'm bummed that Georgetown basketball is where it's at right now because I want Georgetown basketball to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I think college basketball is better when Georgetown is competitive and they're near the top of the Big East.
When you're filling out a bracket and Georgetown's on there, it's better.
But here's another thing I thought a lot about this watching Miami because I was around Miami fans over the break. We're talking about 4 programs: Indiana basketball, Nebraska football, Georgetown basketball, Miami football.
Mm.
When they were at their heyday, we could rattle off either the starting 5 for Georgetown, the starting 5 for IU, or we could give you 10 to 12 players on a Miami or Nebraska football roster.
Mm.
Still could today.
But not with the current.
No.
Like those teams back then.
Going back and that's how iconic.
Like the average fan, and an Asian Joe who I know is a diehard Georgetown fan. He's happy that we're talking about him. He wants him to go back to McDonough Arena. I would like him to bring back the uniforms. The first time I ever said Georgetown, David Wingate is the first Georgetown player I remember. But they had a little bit of like a baby blue uniform, not the gray and the dark blue.
Yeah.
Former Spurs.
How many Miami football players on their current roster can you name right now?
Oh,
How many? Even watching Georgetown last night, how many Georgetown players can you name? How many Nebraska football players on the just completed 23 roster do you think people outside of, let's go the 500-mile radius, could rattle off? That'd be a really good question. I wonder how. I wonder the casual college football fan outside of like the Big Ten footprint or the 500-mile radius, how many Nebraska football players they could actually name. But it's the same way with like Miami football players. I mean, IU basketball players. We're talking where this morning. I mean, where's Xavier Johnson? I mean, we talk more about a guy that played at Indiana who Golden State made a great draft pick of.
Yeah.
It's just, it's weird how things change so much. But it also, I think, is part of, we used to be able to name a lot of players on rosters. Like in Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State, you could get to 7 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Opt-outs or not, how many guys on Florida State's current roster could you name? Travis versus Coleman.
Yeah.
After that,
when Rodemaker went into the portal, you crossed him off the list.
Yeah, but you didn't know he wasn't a guy you would rattle off
right until he actually had to play. Right. Keon Coleman and Jordan Travis for sure. After that,
but once you've lost the aura, can you get it back?
Right now, I think history's proven you can't. It's extremely challenging to do so. And Miami's an interesting case too, because it's not like Miami has been a dumpster fire as far as seasons. I mean, they had 5-win season last year was a 5-7.
They're just there,
but
they're 7-6.
Yes, and they're a team that when they creep up in the top 25 and then they play like sort of a significant game, they usually lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they lose momentum. So yeah, they're kind of hanging around a little bit. But to your point about still getting guys in the league, to me, they're more of a fascinating study because they've continued not to the level of like the early 2000s team. And going all the way back to, the 80s and like Michael Irvin teams too, but they're a pathway to the NFL and they've continued to produce that. It's amazing to me that program, I would think out of the ones that we're talking about right now, given the fact that they've been able to still put guys in the league consistently.
So who are they? Give me some names.
Right now?
Yep.
I can't name anybody on this team, but as far as what they've done in the past, gosh, I'm trying to
Braxton Berrios?
I think I'm answering your question though, I guess. that talent, though, that has not been like at the level, like collectively, especially in the ACC, to get them to the level like Clemson, because Clemson is coming back. Like, to me, they're more of a fascinating study than what like Nebraska is, because we've seen Nebraska consistently, not only, the bowl drought, well documented, but also the lack of guys getting in the first, second, third round of the NFL draft consistently, not having that pathway there. Georgetown, when I think of that basketball program in the Big East, and it's just never really been able to get above water for such a long time here. And you're right. I mean, I remember that Florida Gulf Coast game. I remember that that was a good Georgetown team. They were a 2 seed. It was crazy that happened. But since then, you've never seen them really like resurface it in like a significant moment other than that Big East tournament in the COVID year. So I think it is, to me, when you've had that moment and you lose it and you lose so much ground, like all those programs have, it's extreme. I don't know if you can get it back. I think you want to hope that you can, especially with new ways of sort of reinventing yourself when it comes to like NIL and how you handle NIL, how you construct a roster. There are new creative ways that you can do it. But man, like I said, history's telling us that it's damn near impossible to get back to that.
Asian Joe, earmuffs here. Since 2014, starting with the 2014 NBA draft, how many draft picks for Creighton? How many draft picks for Georgetown?
Since when?
Starting
14.
with the 2014. So Doug
2014.
McDermott drafted in 2014.
I'll go 7-1.
5 and 3.
4-1.
4-1. Wow.
Damn,
McDermott, Patton, Kyrie, and Marcus Zagorowski. You know the last Georgetown basketball player to be drafted? I keep refreshing, thinking this website is wrong. Otto Porter.
Nice.
Speaking of
Do you
that,
know who? Okay, so
Might as well
here,
be Terry Porter.
You know who I think has gotten the most attention
crazy
in the NBA that has a Georgetown connection, that has actually puts feet on the court in the last decade? Mac McClung. And he was there for a cup of coffee. That's
Red Raider great.
So it's just every time I watch Georgetown, I'm like, God, this is sad. Come on, Ed Cooley bailed them out. I hope he can save them. But man, nobody goes to the games.
Right.
There's no aura. Nobody talks about them. They're, I think they're a little bit better than they've been. And Epps was a late scratch last night, so he's their best player. He didn't play. I don't know.
Like if you look at the future, like Brumball, like that's their freshman, like nice player, but is that? Whoa,
maybe I'm just lamenting here. Maybe I'm just sad. I want the past. I want the old Orange Bowl to come back. I want the old Orange Bowl game to come back. I want Nebraska and Miami to play again.
I want New Year's Day to matter.
I want Michael Graham to send somebody into the front row.
Do you think with NIL, okay, and NIL transport, let's just make this a football conversation real quickly. Those programs, do you think that helps a Nebraska, Miami, and Florida State damn near did it? I mean, they probably, Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt. They're playing for a college football playoff. But for those two, let's use Miami and Nebraska.
Absolutely no chance what you're going with.
Does NIL?
No. Because, hey, Miami spent all kinds of money.
Yes, they are.
They're spending money to go 7-6. Here's what I've learned. Let me pull up a chair, boys. This is what I've learned closely watching the bowl season and how rosters are constructed. Because I'm fascinated by what Nebraska's going to do in year 2.
Mm-hmm.
They're dabbling with a guy that I still have no idea how he's got 2 years of eligibility left. The wide receiver from Wyoming, Texas. I mean, the guy's been everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm now into basketball and football, how teams construct their rosters. And one thing is not for everyone. If you have the means and you're comfortable and spend money to build your roster.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I've learned of programs that are going to be successful moving forward. They have 3 traits. This is my TED Talk. They have stability. So whether it be on their roster, where you keep recruiting classes for the most part together, or your coaching staff that you keep together, you also have loyalty.
Yeah.
You have loyalty of players that they're playing for the brand and not themselves. And you have coaches on your staff that you hired to give them that opportunity that are loyal to you and are not on the first train out of town. I mean, Colorado's replacing both coordinators.
Yep.
Shock. And then there's we say it, but we don't say it enough. There's a pure thing about culture. Look at through the bowl season of guys that had big opt-outs or guys that didn't and they stayed loyal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good sign of the culture in your program. Now, I think Florida State's culture is pretty good. There was a lot that goes into all their opt-outs. But stability and loyalty, I think, are something that are going to become hot words in 24 around here. I mean, look at Nebraska's roster is pretty stable. And like, if you want to find a path to get to where you want to go, stability and loyalty, like for Nebraska, the roster's pretty stable. Guys haven't been leaving.
Mm-hmm.
They've kind of kept recruiting classes together in their brief time they've been here. And then they have, loyalty from players or loyalty from coaches. I mean, I look at Michigan. Michigan has conquered that.
Yeah, they have.
Of all the outside noise and all the crap that goes on, their stability and loyalty is pretty impressive in Ann Arbor. And it's not just, hey, we're winning, so this is kind of fun. Have you seen all the stuff that goes on with Michigan?
Well, and the thing that I think Michigan has taught you, and I always feel like Nebraska, that's sort of the hope of Michigan had their own struggles. They kind of figured it out. They've been able to put together a roster and have, again, I'm with you on the continuity part of it. I think it's lost a lot because I think a lot of people will point to the culture. And I think I think continuity has something to do with the culture. I think that those things are not necessarily mutually exclusive. But when you look at Michigan, do we say build back up or just actually having the wins that mattered, where they were able to get back over the hump? They're in a position where they are now. It's a storied program. It's a major college football brand. I think there's a lot of the Nebraska section that says that's what we should strive to be, is you find a coach, you're able to have, whether you want to talk about the continuity, but you build a culture of guys that buy into it, that guys, you have a coach that guys truly do relate to, because we talked about that with Jim Harbaugh. And I thought Sam McCune brought up something too, kind of, there's sort of a childlike charm to him. Like if you're connected to your head coach, there's that. Nebraska's well positioned with NIL. There's that too. So you are taken care of as a student athlete.
I'll go closer to here. You want a model of if they can do it, could it happen here? And using those two keywords, Columbia, Missouri.
Yes. Yep. You got another football program. What Eli Drinkwitz, the way he's recruited, and they're not intimidated by anybody. I mean, they're going after everyone, and they're covering all territories. But now you're seeing the success in the field. So not only are you relentless when it comes to recruiting, you're making good moves in the transfer portal, but now you see the success as well. That, to me, that's the one thing for Nebraska. There are so many good things that I think eventually that you could even point to now within that building, within that coaching staff. The fact that yesterday's transfer portal deadline came and went, and it was, a very low number for Nebraska. Like, you're keeping that part of the roster drama down. At some point, when Nebraska can point at the product on the field and saying, here's the wins and losses, playing in those types of games that matter, playing in bowl games that matter, being able to beat teams, regardless if that team had a bunch of opt-outs in a bowl game. Then all of a sudden, as you like to say, cooking with peanut oil, when you can point at the field and the product on top of everything that's going on, that's where Nebraska's next major phase is. But it's a big part of it. Like you said, this is now the hard work. Like Dylan Raiola, getting Dylan Raiola, that was the easy part. Now the hard work begins. Well, it's the same thing with this football program too. The hard work of getting them from 5 wins, 0 and 4 in November, and being close in those games to being able to flip that trend. That's the hard work.
Joe, Asian Joe, again, diehard Georgetown fan, and he has gear to back it up. I've seen it. He said the last Georgetown team I really enjoyed watching was 06 with Green and Hibbert. So you had Jeff Green, who first round in 07, and then Hibbert went first round in 08. Yeah, I mean, there's Greg Monroe. There's Otto Porter. There's Indiana basketball, Georgetown basketball, Nebraska football, Miami football. I think there's all a connection. So we used to be able to name off Georgetown players. Chris, who lives well outside of the 500-mile radius, when I say I would be curious to see concerning Nebraska, how many names on the 23 roster you could rattle off. He says, I listen to 1620, 6A to 6P, and I'm not sure I could get to 11 current players. He said, this roster, Dylan Raiola and 84 other guys on scholarship. but here's the power of
93 right now.
Here's the power of one player. That's the one guy that people in college football can name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's so many teams that we watch and that you can't just rattle off name after. Look at Alabama. Yeah. Honestly, Jimmy, how many guys not named Jalen Milroe could you have rattled off before the Alabama-Michigan game?
Kool-Aid McKinstry. That's probably about it.
I can't think of many, yeah. As far as I can just rattle right off.
I feel like there's one.
But in the past, you probably could.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially, Washington. People are going to find out here because of his, he's got the missile arm, that there is more than Michael Penix Jr. on that roster.
Rome's pretty damn good, too.
Well, I'm looking at him because I need him in Kansas City. But okay, so we host a talk show 20 hours a week. Can we get to the third Washington player that you can name?
Polk.
That's one more than me.
Oh, who's the running back that got injured? God,
Dylan Johnson.
Yeah, there's him.
Okay, see, this is a fascinating experiment because in the past,
Trice defensive. Yeah.
In the past, maybe 15 years ago, just like baseball, where you could name the starting 9 on almost every team.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough in college football to get to. Like I remember Miami and Florida State, and Nebraska. You didn't have to be followers of the team, but you could rattle off 10 guys right away.
Still name those guys today. Loved watching all of them.
But I bet if we called somebody up in California and they said, "Yeah, I'm a big college football fan." Okay, give me how many guys on Nebraska's roster in 2023?
Tell them 4, 3.
I bet they would say Adrian Martinez, and you'd say didn't finish here and he didn't have any eligibility last year. Maybe that's a sign. Maybe we figured this whole discussion out. Is if you can't rattle off numerous players on a current roster, they're not relevant.
Yeah, if you can't get more than 2. Yeah.
It's not wrong.
Because I would be curious if I bet somebody would say, like California, talking about Nebraska, would say Chubba Purdy because of Brock. Like, well, Chubba's no longer there because that was, that was
not a good sign for Nebraska.
Right. That was making some headlines.
Third string quarterback.
Right. Yeah. I mean, would people be able to identify Nash Hutmacher? Probably not.
No.
Like, oh yeah, I remember that. Okay, I've heard of that guy.
He's good. I saw him that one game.
You'd have to say his name. Yeah, the big dude who wears 0. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that
I like
guy.
him.
So to land the plane and end this conversation because we're up against it. Nebraska with one guy may have solved this issue.
With Dylan Raiola. Mm-hmm. Because everybody knows who Dylan Raiola is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, if you asked right now, it's probably what they'd say. You guys got the Raiola kid, right?
But can you name the second guy? Or who he's going to be throwing to? Or who's going to be the leading wide receiver?
Yeah.
All of that to come in the last hour. Brandon Vogel stops by. That was good. I just, watching Miami, I thought about that for a while of, gosh.
That was a rough watch, too.
TC says A.J. Allen. Yeah, that was a rough watch watching A.J. Allen in the bowl game trying to run the football. I can, the only guy that right away I could name off the Miami roster is at Wisconsin and Van Dyke.
Yeah.
I
would have said Van Dyke, but he's not there anymore.
I'd have said Berrios. He's very much not there anymore.
Yeah.
He's playing in the NFL.
Right.
Tyreek
Stevenson in the NFL.
I'm glad Google did something for you. At some point, Miami's got to win, I would think. I think you got to win. I mean, I like wins. I mean, they got turned out. They turned out by Cam Ward. Ouch.
Yeah.
Again, Brandon Vogel from Counter Read coming up at about 9:40. We'll talk about Nebraska dabbling with portal wide receivers, whether they be from Texas or Wake Forest, as they've got a big weekend to try and fill holes on their roster. We'll do that. Also, if any of us threw a drink on a fan, what would happen to us at the particular venue? Jimmy told you earlier about the Tepper tantrum and the fine of $300K. Ooh, seems like a light slap on the wrist. If I was a fan, is that happening to me?
Especially if it's a billionaire.
It's mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. For the Jays, the Huskers, and even you Jayskers, we are 1620 The Zone.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
Hey there, Greg Wagner joining you from the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Time now for another Outdoor Nebraska update. It's hunting time in the Husker State. For a safe season, remember to be totally certain of your target and your background before you fire that shot. In a moment, ask yourself, is the bullet flight path clear? Is that a legitimate target? And what am I going to hit if I miss my shot? Please be careful out there. If you'd like more information on hunting safety, go to outdoornebraska.gov. That's outdoornebraska.gov. From wildfowl to owls. Great time of year to step outside and watch wildlife. Many animals are still active, plus the leaves have mostly fallen, vegetation is set back, and we'll have some warmer weather. Maybe you'll hike a state park trail or head to a public reservoir to do that. Oh, and don't forget your camera. Oh, it's on your phone, that's right. I'm Greg Wagner.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our quinces. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air is now open in Omaha, and we are looking for experienced plumbers and HVAC technicians to join our team. We offer company-paid employee health insurance, provide a company truck with innovative technology, and so much more. We will have open interviews Mondays and Wednesdays at our new location, 9321 J Street. Learn more at calljh.com/careers or call
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air.
1620 The Zone at 1620thezone.com. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, isn't there always a new bachelor or bachelorette starting?
Should be.
Yeah, usually.
Do they ever
or do they do the Bachelor in Paradise right now?
Well, do they ever take time off? They're always promoting like a new bachelor or bachelorette is starting.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably Bachelor, then Bachelorette, then The Bachelor. Do they still do The Bachelor in Paradise?
I have no idea.
All of the above. It's like the NCISs. They're like 10 cities.
I watched the show one time when the guy that was a former Colorado football player was on there.
The tight end or whatever?
Defensive back. I think actually his marriage has lasted.
Oh. Well, remember Jordan Rogers was the final. He ended up marrying the Bachelorette.
Jesse Palmer.
Yep,
That's
Jesse
where
Palmer.
he kind of got his start.
He was the OG, wasn't he?
So I watched a little bit of like the Golden Bachelor because the guy's name was Gary, and I'm here to support Gary.
Is he repping Gary as well?
They started to dig into his past.
Oh,
never good.
Yeah, we might have to have a discussion about being the fraternity of Garys.
Gary a little shady.
But they're having his wedding tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So it's happening. So he found love?
He did find love.
Good.
But like, so they promote that he's having his wedding. I don't know if it's live. Maybe it's live. But then, like, the next Bachelor is ready to go.
Yeah.
That show never takes any time off. It's like Survivor.
They got another one in the hopper ready to go.
It's like American Idol.
There's always
Will
a
never end.
new season of Bachelor.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Now, this Golden Bachelor, did that count as
It's like strippers. They have them on the on-deck circle.
That's well, yeah, stand by.
Yeah.
That was the correct way to say it, Jimmy.
Stand by, Lexus.
Yes, exactly. Mercedes, stand by. Does that fill the Bachelor portion where you have, the male and the female, then you have like they all get together and have one big orgy and on the
there's
on the
something you
beach?
can sell.
Well, that's like what Bachelor in Paradise was. I'll admit I watched 2 seasons of that one time with my wife.
Orgies will do that.
It was a blank show. It was great. So I'm assuming coming up next is the Bachelorette then? Because they're not going to go back to back men, right?
No, it's some dude.
Oh, so they are going. So,
Yeah.
So is this Golden Bachelor thing going to become a part of the regular lineup?
I don't know.
All of the above.
I got questions. So
In the
I'm all
sitcoms.
about love. Everybody love everybody. I want people to be in love. I want people to be happy in 2024 and beyond.
Thank you, Gary.
But there is nothing more beautiful than 2 70-year-olds that just met 2 months ago that say, I can't live without you.
But you lived 70 years without him?
Exactly.
70 years to realize that.
Although I do understand the truncated timetable compared to like the other Bachelor and Bachelorettes where it's like, wow, you just found your soulmate in a matter of however long that show lasts. That's pretty amazing. I do understand the truncated timetable when you're the Golden Bachelor.
We're gonna die soon. Yes
not
or
every
no?
not every day is a given. So I do understand that part.
I guess they're big into bed selfies.
Oh.
Laying next to each other in bed, and you put the camera up.
Oh.
See the clock. It's 5:30.
I mean, hey, your parents are still having sex, aren't they?
No, they're not.
Are you sure? Ask your mom.
Gary, I'll
Text-
tell you during the break why that's probably not happening.
Whoops.
That's a tease.
Whoops.
It's okay. You
Could have
didn't
done
know.
this live at
It's
Hy-Vee
all right,
that
Gary.
day.
You didn't know, but yes, I'm pretty confident that that's not happening.
Damn.
Although I did.
I know my dad's getting after it.
I remember the first time my
dad's in his 70s. Boy, he's found a whole new world, and it didn't involve a pill.
Do you guys remember ever walking in on that?
He tucks in his shirt a lot. I notice around his new wife.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I think I was when I could actually comprehend what was happening. I walked in one time. Freaked me out, man.
No wonder you worked at the strip club. You needed to balance that out.
Some people have daddy or mommy issues.
Jesse Palmer will be hosting the wedding. He's not officiating the wedding. One of the contestants is. So she didn't win, but she is like
now she's a lifelong friend.
She's doing the wedding.
This is great.
Get former Florida quarterbacks. Get Shane Matthews.
I give this
Rex Grossman?
I give this a couple of months.
And then he dies?
More than likely. According to statistical.
I did not.
I'm just okay. As far as the marriage, okay.
Iowa JD says, know your bachelor calendar. My wife has a weekly viewing with her friends that I have to cook for.
JD, you are a good man.
Right now in the winter, new bachelor and golden wedding. Then summer is Bachelor in Paradise. Fall is new bachelor. Winter repeat.
Okay. So I feel like JD.
What do you cook?
Does Iowa JD watch all of these?
He didn't strike me as a guy that would watch.
He just provides
Provides a good meal.
Provides the fare. Okay.
I'd like to know about that.
That's right. Summer is Bachelor in Paradise. I didn't know it was still going. I remember they had a potential sexual assault in a hot tub, and the one that we were watching, and so they had to shut it down for a while. Then they came back.
After she shut him down.
Well, it's wedding week on Golden Bachelor, if you did not know.
Is this going to be like the royal wedding? Are people going to be like dropping what they're doing to watch the golden wedding?
I don't know. She's got Doja Cat and Dua Lipa and Pink on her playlist.
They'll have full breakdown.
Like they were going to be like they're attending the wedding. Like, geez, this is pretty sweet.
I don't think so.
These guys are hip.
All right. More. We got Brandon Vogt coming up. We're going to talk Husker football in the transfer portal coming up next.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. Accident reported I-80 westbound approaching 60th Street, exit 450. This is causing stop-and-go traffic from 42nd Street, exit 451. So do expect delays if you are approaching this area. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody. Remember, stay safe and wear those seatbelts. I'm Peter Krenzer.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by IBEW Local 22.
The electrical market requires your company to adjust to an ever-changing field. IBEW Local 22 gives you flexibility with access to journeymen, apprentices, and proven training programs. Call Bob at IBEW Local 22 for details at 402-980-7596.
Host is roasting every morning. Host is roasting every day.
Put your coffee department in good hands with Host Coffee Service, providing direct delivery and loaned coffee equipment with service programs. If you're ready to change to a better coffee provider, it's time for Host Coffee.
Omaha's best coffee since 1972. Host Coffee is always roasting something good for you.
There's, there to be, beginning, there's help as they're, being there.
This is Nikki Haley. Look, I'll just say it. Biden's too old, and Congress is the most exclusive nursing home in America. Washington keeps failing because politicians from yesterday can't lead us into tomorrow.
Nikki Haley, a new generation of conservative leadership.
We need term limits, mental competency tests for politicians over 75, and a real plan to defeat China and restore our economy. I've long said Biden's not going to make it, and a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for President Kamala Harris. Republicans need to leave behind the chaos and drama of the past with a new generation and a new conservative president. I'm Nikki Haley, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Nikki Haley for president.
I'm Christy. I used to smoke cigarettes. I had smoker's cough and severe shortness of breath, and I knew I had to quit. Then I tried e-cigarettes, but I just ended up using both. I really didn't start to get better until I quit smoking completely. My tip to you is just cutting down on the number of cigarettes you smoke isn't enough.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When you wake up well-rested on a great mattress, everything becomes clear.
I do have a favorite child.
Things you missed when you were tired finally reveal themselves.
I use memes as a coping mechanism.
It's Mattress Firm's once-a-year sale and clearance. Get up to 60% off select Sealy, plus a free adjustable base, all with free and fast delivery. Deals this big won't last long, so don't miss out. The right mattress matters. We'll find yours. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, 9:14 on a Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. The sun is out here. Somebody's telling me this is gloomy season.
Sun was out yesterday, and then
yeah.
it got gloomy in the afternoon.
It'll stay gray for about 6 weeks.
I woke
You guys
up.
got to live on the East Coast.
I woke up from a nap.
From November to Easter. When I lived outside of Pittsburgh, the sun never came out. I was like, how do people live here? I mean, I love the area, but the sun never came out. And then I moved to Florida, and you wake up and the sun's out every day, and if it's not, there's something wrong.
I've called
Did
10
you have
games.
seasonal disorders? Did you have seasonal mood disorder?
A little bit.
It's easy to happen.
A little bit.
That's what they tell
I know
me.
when we've had like weeks without the sun, it's like it's not motivated.
Yeah. What were you saying, Jimmy?
Oh, I've called 10 games in Morgantown, so you'll understand this, spending times in that. 10 games. Only twice I've seen the sun in that town.
Ooh. That's a mild upset that you even saw it twice.
Well, one of them was in October where you'll see the sun. But yeah,
Oh.
one time in February, it's like, whoa, the sun's out. So this is what it looks like. So this is what John Denver was singing about. He is not full of.
You're right. Now that I think of it, like when you see football games and stuff on the East Coast, it always, not a lot of sunny games.
Late games at Giant Stadium or the Vet.
Yes.
Usually gray, dark.
Never thought of that.
So Nebraska football, which is has a busy weekend, looking for a wide receiver, looking for a running back. They have made other portal offers. I noticed the defensive tackle from North Dakota State, who they offered, has just gotten offered by USC, where his head coach is gone. But Nebraska's also kicked the tires on some linebackers. But wide receiver and running back are areas that they need to fix. A starting offensive lineman probably not going to fall into their lap. And now the portal is closed. If you are in the portal, you can still shop, but you can't. The grocery store is closed.
Yes, you can't put your name in.
Yeah, you're done. It's sealed up. It's like the Hy-Vee that at my Hy-Vee. I notice now they park trucks in front of the entrance when they're closed.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
that's what it is. But if you're inside of Hy-Vee, you can still shop and you can pick wherever you want to go.
Yeah, the stock is the stock. It's not being. It will not be restocked though.
So Nebraska this weekend has a couple of wide receivers on campus, and then they have Dowdle, the running back from Oregon. But they have invited Isaiah Nayor, who used to be at Wyoming. In 2021, he had a monstrous year, but then he got hurt, and he's kind of disappeared for a while. He's been at Texas. Now he'd like to go somewhere and play. Can you help me do the math here?
Yes. So did he?
He has 2 years left.
Right.
So he redshirted at Wyoming in 2019.
Yes.
19, 20, 21,
20 got a
22,
COVID year.
23. There's a COVID year there.
But did he? So he had.
How's he have 2 extra years?
Well, he had the ACL in 22. So did he get a medical red shirt because of that? That's the only other thing I'm wondering.
Is this Joshua Fleeks?
Still a little bit younger, I believe. Because wasn't Joshua Fleeks, wasn't his first year in 2018?
Well, we got a couple of calls of people like, Fleeks, you watch out. He's going to be.
Hey, he moved to running back. Had a couple good runs.
I don't. So, of course, I don't even know how. Of course, the big-bodied wide receiver, which we all like.
Yep.
Because
he's 6'3".
I look at. Hey, I'm at least entertained. But my guy Banks, who is from Wake Forest, who has still confirmed that he is coming here this weekend, is the guy that I would want the most, because a guy takes it off 2 years, even though he had a good year in 21. Am I giving up a scholarship for him? Am I giving him a spot on a roster? Because I'm going to tell you this. You do need the big-bodied wide receiver. I said yesterday, 50-50 balls, you need that big guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's going to be, in the first year of a quarterback, there's going to be plenty of 50-50 balls. But good wide receivers like Penix has, takes them from 50-50 to 95-5. I just need 75-25. Okay? I need out of that whole group, because you've committed 11 scholarships to wide receivers, I need few drops, and I need consistent pass catching. Okay? And I think you'll have a quarterback that will give you a ball that's a lot easier to catch. But I am curious, in their dabbling with portal wide receivers, good thing or bad thing, if for the 4th straight year at the University of Nebraska, a portal wide receiver leads you in receiving?
I don't love it. I understood it before.
I mean, you got 11 scholarships that are committed to wide receivers. You've got some young wide receivers that you're bringing back.
Mm-hmm.
Banks would be one of those guys. If he says yes to Nebraska, I'm like, well, that's going to be 4 straight years because there'd be somebody I would feed the beast. But I don't know in terms of development because you've invested in that position.
I don't think it's a great thing.
That's a good thing.
I don't think it's a great thing. I don't. And again, maybe because if you look at the core of this Nebraska wide receiving group, with the guys that we know, I mean, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda is, again, that's a long shot. Okay, so if we're talking about the group that was there at the very end, you could throw Bullock in there, but I think we'd all agree too, Bullock was a guy who ended up getting a lot of that playing time because of the wide receiving situation with the injuries and Xavier Betts leaving. So if I'm thinking about the guys that seem to have the biggest ceiling right now, those are the 2 freshmen that we saw that had to burn the red shirt in Jalen Lloyd and Malachi, and then Jaden Doss. I'm okay with it again this year because I don't know if you have those guys fully developed to the point that they're going to take that next big step and be your leading target. But if you're doing that for a 5th straight year,
I don't know. Is Nebraska,
to me, that's a problem.
Is Nebraska in search to have Naor on a visit and Banks on a visit? Because I don't think if you are at a certain comfort level if you're bringing portal guys on visits. Are they searching for a wide receiver 1 or are they searching for wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3? I don't think that's something that's been
it's a good question.
Filtered out with looking at the 24 roster from the head coach of, oh yeah, that guy is going to be wide receiver 1. These are supplements.
Mm-hmm.
And they got 11 scholarships that are committed to wide receivers. I like what I saw last year. I bought all the stock in the world. You guys can't buy any more on Jalen Lloyd. I've taken it so you can sit on the side of the road. Go get Doss, go get Bell. And then I like who they have coming in at wide receiver. So are they searching for a wide receiver 1 in the portal or wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, or depth? I would take Banks over Naor. I don't know what their plan is with Banks or what he's thinking because he's made a lot more visits.
Yeah.
At least he's still coming here. But Nebraska does need that guy that can go and run and catch and track a deep ball and be physical.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these guys fit that case.
I would think Jamal Banks. I think Jamal Banks probably fits more of the, wide receiver 1 mode, considering you got, again, younger guys that are still a bit unproven. So someone who has over 1,400 yards career receptions, okay, or receiving yards, okay. 6'3", was he 210, 215-ish? Probably fits that mold. I'm with you on Naor. That one to me, for a guy, that would be, if they got him, to me, that would be depth. That would be nothing more than depth. Naor is not a guy that I think, given the fact that he hasn't played, he got 1 catch last year and then had to sit out 2022.
He's a guy that I would
That's a
look
depth.
at.
That's a depth guy.
He's a guy that I look at. If you have open scholarships, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not a guy that I need to. I'm in a roster crunch and I'm adding him.
Yeah,
and I could be completely wrong. I mean, but he hasn't played for 2 years.
Now
I need a proven commodity, and I don't know why Nebraska seems to be. They went after Fleming. It didn't work out. But why are they searching for wide receivers that aren't like true wide receiver 1s?
It's a good question. I don't really even know if. Yeah, that's a good question. Because right now, if I look at their current wide receiving core, Jalen Lloyd is a home run hitter. There's no question. Malachi's size, as long as he continues to develop, move forward, he seems like he could fit into that type of role. Jaden Doss, I think there's a lot of excitement behind him too. But you brought up something that it's hard to fully answer that because of how those receivers, I think, did, especially the freshmen, didn't have that real solid year of development in games because of the people who are throwing in the football. I think if you've got a better passer last year, let's say, and I just want to do this for the simple fact that I'm not trying to throw anything out there, but Casey Thompson. If you have Casey Thompson that is playing pitch and catch to those guys, I think that is a nice. Gary got nuts. I think you get a little bit more feel about where those guys are in their freshman year. I feel like there's a little bit more of development. I just feel like right now it's got to be hard for Marcus Satterfield and for Garrett McGuire to really know exactly how those guys project based on those games last year. And it's not their fault. Again, you have to consider who's throwing them the football. So why are they recruiting or at least interested in number one wide receivers that maybe aren't fitting the mold? I don't know, maybe Jamal Banks would, given his size. But yeah, the Nayor one doesn't make any sense to me.
So they've invested 9 scholarships to wide receivers in the last 2 years. Now, a little bit of it is because they had to. I mean, that position was like a friggin' turnstile. They couldn't keep anybody here. And so they had to go into the portal. I don't know. Well, get Brandon Vogel's thoughts. If it's the 4th straight year Nebraska has a portal wide receiver that leads you in receiving, good or bad thing? I don't know. I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it was a good thing, because I think you have, what does that mean to the young guys, especially like a Lloyd and Coleman that played last year, what they're going to do moving forward. B. Vogues will join us here in about 15 minutes. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
It doesn't seem like any of us are supper people in here.
I was a supper person.
I was too, and I moved away from it. I hate supper. People who call dinner supper call lunch dinner, and these people trigger me.
Dinner is only lunch on weekend, on like a Sunday.
My grandmother would call supper a snack between lunch and dinner, and then sometimes dinner would be dinner, but dinner wouldn't be dinner. I didn't understand these etiquettes.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
Watch out for patchy dense fog during the morning drive Wednesday. Any fog should lift by the late morning. Partly sunny skies in the afternoon, though staying chilly with highs in the low to mid-30s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
Most folks don't realize this fact. Our country is only 4 missed meals away from chaos, and those meals can vanish fast. In a national emergency, fragile supply chains break down and will wipe grocery store shelves clean in a matter of hours. Before this happens, there's something you should do today. That's stock up on emergency food storage. My Patriot Supply is the company millions of American families trust for their emergency supplies. You should too. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and secure their best-selling 3-month emergency food kits. Each kit contains delicious breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, averaging over 2,000 calories per day. My Patriot Supply also sells large solar generators, gravity-powered water filtration systems, off-grid room heaters for when the power goes out, heirloom seeds, and other survival necessities. Order by 3 p.m. and your items ship the same day, fast. Go to mypatriotsupply.com right now. Those who know what's coming prepare before the chaos starts. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard. Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long. And with Babbel, it isn't hard. It's perfect.
Start learning a new language today. Go to Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
The Creighton women's basketball team hosts UConn tonight at DJ Sokol Arena. Tip scheduled for 6 o'clock. Catch all the action on 1620 The Zone with Rob Sims and yours truly, Josh Peterson. It's Creighton versus UConn tonight at 6 on 1620 The Zone.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Nebraska-Indiana basketball tonight. The Huskers are a 4.5-point favorite. You can join us over at Baxter Arena, Nebraska-Omaha. That doesn't even sound right. Omaha,
But good save.
is playing
Yes.
Northern Arizona in the Big Sky Summit League Challenge.
This is the first year of that?
I think technically yes, but there
Okay.
was a scheduling agreement for a couple of years where
There were some Big Sky
but it
teams.
wasn't like a home.
Yeah.
Like Omaha's on the road this weekend. That's at 7 tonight at Baxter, and then of course, as you just heard, Josh's promo, UConn and Creighton women down at Sokol. So good night of hoops.
Hey, was Red Panda doing halftime at the South
Yeah.
Dakota game?
Yes, no.
Or I'm sorry, the Denver game.
The Denver game. Yes.
Yeah.
That's why it
She's
was
aged
on
a little bit.
How'd she do?
First of all, she's in incredibly great shape. I think she's late 50s.
Oh, okay.
So she's still in really good shape. I don't think she was happy with her performance. Her final one where she does the 3 bowls and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
On the head?
She missed it.
Oh.
And I could tell the look on her face. She was not happy.
Hmm.
Yeah, she like stormed off. It's like she completed it.
Yeah.
People gave her a nice applause. And she
Just
puts on,
straight
she always puts on a
locker
good show. But then she like stormed
She was
off.
upset with herself.
Yeah.
Did she like ever stick around for like autographs or anything?
No, I don't believe
not
she.
Caitlin
I don't believe she
Clark.
speaks English.
Okay. Still can sign an autograph.
She
Which
puts
is
on
a good
great
way to
show.
get out
She's in incredible shape, but I think she's in her late 50s.
Makes sense.
Nice.
I remember seeing her in the mid 90s. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw a photo of, or it was just a short little video where she did the bowls from the feet to the head. That was insane.
I mean,
that's insane.
She's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Better than the superstars.
Or Shim Sham.
Hey, so what if we were at Baxter Arena and we were pissed at Red Panda and I chucked a what do beers go for at Baxter Arena?
I don't know.
$25?
Yeah, that's probably on the low end.
16.
Yeah.
About what I paid last week.
No,
at the
I think it's.
football
I think
game.
it. I think, and sorry, Saver, if I'm wrong, because I'm never usually getting them.
Concessions are expensive.
I think it's
at
like
Baxter
10.
Arena. It's too bad that Omaha does not have control of their concessions because they are expensive.
Do you know what pizza went up to at Baxter?
Yeah, it's
That's
expensive, and
insane.
that's not the athletic department. I mean, they're separate.
That's Saver.
How much is
But
the
what if
pizza
I
now?
took that $25 beer and I was sitting in the suites and I chucked it on somebody? Would I be banned for life from Baxter Arena or the Chai or PBA?
If you intentionally did it, I would think yes.
Okay, so David Tepper, the billionaire owner of the Panthers, God, Matt Rule, it makes sense every day after Dave Tepper does something. So he got fined. The maximum fine in the NFL was only $500K. He got fined $300K. They took 2 days to construct this really lawyerish release by the Panthers.
Yeah.
But shouldn't he suffer the same consequences as a normal fan?
That's what Panther fans.
Seriously, like if you throw
Especially
a
when
drink,
you're the owner.
if you hurl a drink and there's video evidence like there is, aren't you being kicked out for like
Yes.
at Baxter Arena, the Chai, PBA?
Yep.
Aren't you being tossed for a while? Like Warner Park.
Mm-hmm.
Get Marty on the phone. What if I stand up on a Thursday and say, "Bring back Brian Poldberg, you suck," and chuck
Stir this up.
a beer towards somebody? Am I done at Warner Park? Shouldn't he, as an owner who should set a different precedent,
Then that's why
shouldn't he be banned?
he should at least be banned for the next season.
Yeah.
Also, he didn't
Absolutely.
get the maximum fine. I mean, what do you
No.
have to do?
And
Stab
see,
someone?
and that's
No,
ridiculous.
yeah, it's weird that they
That's
do have
ridiculous.
like a maximum fine.
Yeah, that's
It can only
ridiculous
be
too.
$500K. He got $300K.
Because again, you're holding your front office types to a higher standard. That's everyone would say, well, adults should know better, which is true. When we're talking about adults versus kids, adults should know better. Okay. Also, very highly, I don't want to say regarded, but well-to-do adults that are the financial face of their organization, that behavior can just be dismissed with a $300,000 fine for a guy who's worth more than $1 billion.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of making your kid put $1 in the swear jar.
Yeah. Like, don't do it again, and the kid's already outside the door playing with friends. No, that's a horrible look. It's a horrible look.
It's on brand for them.
You're right, though. No, Jimmy, you're right.
Yeah, Frank Wright is even thinking.
You're 100% right.
That Jags fan, I don't care if it's the owner, he was ready to go up in that box.
Well, and that's the organization that is going to, if you're associated with that organization, you're going to also accept that too from your owner, from your boss, to be able to do something.
Maybe it shows that that's just who he is. We see that all the time. You guys just happen to see it on video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we had a
Donald Sterling thinks he's a swell guy.
You know what?
What if Trev did that?
Ooh. Like towards another fan, or like the officials?
Yeah, towards a fan.
Or at Fran McCaffrey.
We'd hear from people at from Omaha football. The wrestling and football.
I teed that up for you.
The wrestling and football people would come out of the woodwork.
I told you so. It's so true.
They would delay the stadium project by a month.
There's someone else I'm not going to even mention.
All right, you don't have to. We'll mention Brandon Vogel because he'll join us next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. Now live on Twitch, YouTube, and 1620thezone.com.
Hi, everybody. Kent Pavelka here with why I chose Everlevel Concrete Repair for my driveway. They do it all. They fix cracks, lift sunken slabs, protect the finished product from deterioration, and all at a fraction of the price of replacement. It's not a Band-Aid like other repair methods. Everlevel's products are designed to last, which is why they've been voted Best of Omaha again this year. Better yet, it all comes with a transferable warranty. Protect your concrete before winter. Call Everlevel today for your free inspection. Everlevel. They make your driveway Everlevel. Level up.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Kugler Vision. As we move on into 2024, I know so many of you out there have New Year's resolutions for what is next. Why not a resolution for improved vision? At Kugler Vision, they can change your life in a matter of minutes. It was 6 years ago when I went in for my consultation, the beginning of 2018, and then I had the procedure done that February, changed my life. 6 years later, so happy that I made that decision. You can do so today. Go to their website, kuglervision.com.
My passion for the unborn comes from my own unplanned pregnancy. Dan and I have been together for over 45 years. We have 3 of the most beautiful children. My name is Marlis Patma. I'm the former president of Iowa Right to Life, and I'm supporting Nikki Haley for president. I've heard Nikki's story. She speaks with such clarity about the importance of life because for her, it's personal.
I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children.
Nikki's a sister in Christ. She's pro-life. She has compassion and strength. I want a president with moral clarity who can restore our country, our pride, and our purpose. For my children and yours, please support Nikki Haley for president.
I'm Nikki Haley, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Nikki Haley for president.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, it's a new year. It's a new conversation with Brandon Vogel, our good friend from counterread.com. Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you guys doing?
Good. Hey, let's start with a little Washington, Michigan. And guys that win national championships early in their tenure. Bob Stoops went and got a junior college quarterback named Josh Heupel. Kellen DeBoer went and got a transfer named Michael Penix Jr. We see first-year head coaches will go and get their guy, whether it be Adrian Martinez or Jeff Sims. If you are advising first-year head coaches, is that their number one thing, is to go find your quarterback?
I think so. It's the best way to make sure whatever timeline, we talk a lot about how the timeline separated, how long do coaches have before panic time, and it seems to get shorter each time. The best way to avoid that is get your quarterback and hopefully have him for multiple years. DeBoer and Penix, they obviously spent a season together at Indiana, kind of a unique fit. Been super impressed with Washington all season, but you kind of look at them going into next year, and who knows, they might be the defending national champs, but just because you're going to lose that quarterback, you almost look at Washington, or at least I look at Washington next year, is that maybe a little trending down, but it's all relative. They're still going to be very good.
And when we think about, we were just talking about this as far as the awareness of a lot of these football programs, and for Nebraska, what the Dylan Raiola, as far as that get, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, Brandon, as well, just how big of a get that is, but also what that now means for the overall Nebraska brand. Would you agree that if people were to, like, the non-Nebraska fans, if you were to bring up Nebraska football, or can you name someone from Nebraska football, that recognition would be probably starting with a guy like Dylan Raiola?
Yeah, I think so. It's been a while. Well, probably since the end of 2017, when UCF was completing an undefeated season and Nebraska had landed Frost.
Yeah.
Other than like looking in on Nebraska for like, oh my gosh, they lost by one score again. From a national perspective, there hasn't been a ton of reason to check in. Dylan Raiola is that reason. So it feels pretty similar to that. And, eventually Nebraska, or hopefully, I guess, they can just win their way into this sort of attention. And we'll see if Dylan Raiola can be the guy to help do that.
Hey, what were your thoughts on the two semifinal games that gave us, for the second straight year, two bangers in the semifinals?
Yeah, a great night of football, of course. I wasn't all that surprised by the Washington-Texas result. Washington, that's a really, really well-coached team, and they had the better quarterback in that game. I thought those were their two key edges, and had to hold on, but got that one done. Michigan did surprise me, and I look at numbers kind of on a weekly basis all year long, and Michigan's were as good as you could find, but there was kind of questions about the schedule early, and then you had the whole sign stealing thing, and they've kind of just kept beating teams pretty handily. I know that game was close; it went to overtime, but Michigan was the better team on the field. And you look at Monday's matchup, and it's tough for me at this point to go against Wolverine.
Well, and if you look at, I've found myself doing this a little bit, Brandon. I'm not sure if you have yet, of taking a peek ahead of what this could look like next year when we have more games, more playoff games. And remember how this whole thing started, those semifinal games that were just big time blowouts. Do you feel like that we're at least sort of setting the stage as far as people who got really enamored with those games and how entertaining they were, that's only a good thing going into next year? Or do you think that there is maybe some reluctance to fully embrace the expanded playoff because those first round games could be maybe a little one-sided like we kind of saw early in the 4-team college football playoff?
Yeah, I'm sure that'll come up next year. I think having the night that we had for football fans on Monday, and as Gary noted, last year's semis were both pretty good games as well. It does give it a little momentum going into the 12-team playoff. For myself, like I've never been there are too many bowls. Like I don't care. I'll watch Toledo at 2:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. Sounds great to me, but I probably watched fewer bowls this year, with just not knowing who's going to be available, watching teams go into games with quarterbacks who've taken 4 snaps. Hasn't been a ton of fun. So I think that's going to help the 12-team playoff as well, because you just look at the stakes of, hey, this is it. Like, loser goes home. Yeah, some of those games are going to be a little bit of mismatches, but not many of them. I mean, I think you're going to have the one spot for a G5 team, and then I don't know, maybe 8 for the Big Ten and SEC.
Yeah.
Brandon Vogel from counterread.com joining us. Let's shift to Nebraska football and trying to construct the roster for 24. They have a busy skill portal weekend with 2 wide receivers. If Nebraska doesn't add anybody in the wide receiver room and they get everybody back that's supposed to come back and gets on campus with eligibility, all those kind of things, is there a wide receiver 1 currently on Nebraska's roster?
It's tough to identify one. I mean, I think you hope that Malachi Coleman with another season becomes that kind of person. But even that, you're not going to open, I think, the 2024 season. Like, maybe he can get there by mid-year and emerge as that person. But they've got a lot of intriguing options, I think, and guys who can be kind of your second or third pitch. But you're still you want to find a fastball to mix sports here, and I don't know if they have one yet, or if they know what it is.
And it's kind of interesting if you think of who they are bringing in. We were talking about Naor from Texas. When you think of a guy who didn't play a lot last year, was injured in 2022. We're trying to decide, is this a depth piece or is this a guy that they are trying to identify as a wide receiver number 1?
I mean, when you look at its size and also kind of quietly, Craig Bull was over there at Wyoming just identifying and developing really good players. And unfortunately for the Cowboys, well, their record didn't really reflect it, but a lot of those guys ended up moving up to Power 5 programs, Naor included. So I think it might be that as much as anything. Like, I think the staff is pretty serious about when they say, we're looking for guys that fit us. That was kind of where my mind first went with him. And it doesn't hurt that, he's 6'3", 220 or whatever he is. Just having that type of big body helps, of course, at wide receiver.
Brandon Vogel from counterread.com joining us. All right, so let's get past running back, wide receiver on your wish list for 2024 to construct the roster. Your next wish is? Doesn't have to be a position. It could be a coach.
Yeah. Well, I think we saw Nebraska's setup, which we know was not their desired setup for quarterbacks last year. I don't think will or can remain the same with a player of not just Raiola coming in, but 2 freshman quarterbacks coming in. So it is a spot, Matt Rule didn't exactly deny that there are some sort of changes coming to the assistant coach lineup, at least, or duties, I guess would be the better way to put it. So that's probably up there more than any position outside of those, running back and wide receiver. You need help on offense at the skill position. After that, you're putting, Nebraska talking about to start off, DeVore getting Penix and these first year coaches, Matt Rule's going to be in year 2, but it sure seems like their plan is Dylan Raiola is that player for them. So you want to make sure you're kind of, I think, giving him and the other quarterbacks on the roster the best you can.
And I know this might change your answer depending on what happens with recruiting weekends and some transfer portal guys, but outside of the quarterback room, because that's its own conversation, which one do you think will be the most interesting to follow as we kind of get through winter and get close to spring? Maybe the better question is, which one is the most important to kind of see that thing come along? I mean, is it as simple as we probably always answer offensive line?
Yeah, I think so. Nebraska has an opportunity to take another step forward on the O-line, and I think that's kind of how it has to happen there. Michigan, to put it in a national title context, Michigan's football is one of kind of dominating in the trenches. Mm-hmm. And while Washington's a lot splashier, a lot more aggressive in what it does in the passing game, Washington's O-line won the Joe Moore Award, and Michigan won the 2 before it. Those are the 2 teams playing in the national title on Monday. So as much as it's kind of the easy answer, in a lot of ways, I think when you really break football down, it's tough to get away from just being better up front on both sides. But for Nebraska in particular, I think they've got a good opportunity ahead on the O-line.
Okay, I'm going to bring up something that is not very popular around here. It brings up some old wounds. I know people didn't leave their basement. They cried. They didn't go to school. They didn't go to work the next day. The state shut down. 40 years ago yesterday was the anniversary of the 84 Orange Bowl, which if we didn't have 94, 95, 97, that game would sting to this day, even if you were not alive. But I was thinking a couple of things. 2 questions. 1, what do you think the heartbreak would have been like if Turner Gill's 2-point pass had been successful? But you remember, there was still less than a minute to go in the game. Miami drives and kicks a field goal. Would that have been tougher? Would that have been more of a gut punch than T.O. going for 2 and it fails?
I think so, because, so the game ends there from a Nebraska fan's perspective. You at least have the solace. And I mean, like this defined Tom Osborne's career, even after he won the national titles. Like, he could have won national titles earlier. And when he retired, he was still going to be the guy that when the chips were down, he went for 2 and there was no question about it. So to do that, to have that moment, and if it's successful, then to come back and lose it, I think it is more difficult, a little bit more of a gut punch than just having that final pass tipped away.
And Jeff Davis had hit a 45-yard field goal earlier in the game. Now, here's another what if.
It's a great question.
So this is 40 years ago. I spent some time on YouTube watching this, and I know not a popular thing to do because it is, of all the losses, it's the most devastating loss to a Nebraska fan. But again, you got 3 in the 90s. What do you think, if Big Red Overreaction existed on that night 40 years ago, what do you think the tone of the first call would have been?
I mean, the show may have lasted for 3 days. It's just I forget what Nebraska was favored by going into that, but Miami was just kind of like out of nowhere.
They were a good story. That's what they were.
They were a good story. And for Bernie Kosar and that whole piece of it, it would have been rough. Rough for Nebraska fans. Although maybe, who knows? I guess everybody got that catharsis, when they went to the coffee shop the next morning or at work. Maybe it would have helped though for people to process that, into the wee hours of the night after it had happened.
Like, would it be the first hour of that show would be anger, and then the second hour would be, man, I love what T.O. did.
It would have been.
Yeah. I think so. And that final play too, like it was there. It almost happened, but you noted like you're kind of scratching at old wounds anytime you bring it up, but it's a game that 40 years on is still fascinating to me. It kind of contains a lot of college football and Nebraska history when you really stop and think about it again.
Yeah, the players that played in that game, unbelievable. But 40 years ago yesterday was the anniversary of that game. Man, I can't imagine what it'd be like around here again if you did not get 94, 95, 97 for TO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, boy, would that have. I mean, so I just got done saying a little bit ago, the decision kind of defines Tom Osborne for people. But what if that was all there was? Like, what if Nebraska never got over?
Yeah, like your legacy is defined by a decision to go for a win as opposed to a tie.
And you continue to coach for another 14 years. Yeah.
Oh, and they would play that over and over and over and over again.
All right. Brandon, great to have you back to kick off the new year. We appreciate it. Great stuff at counterread.com. We'll chat again next Wednesday.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
That's Brandon Vogel. You can follow him on Twitter at Brandon L. Vogel.
That's such a good question, by the way.
A lot of great stuff up there, NIL, and they got volleyball stuff as well, him and Aaron Sorensen.
The first part of that question, so good. I almost go the opposite way and say, I think it hurts the way it went down. Because you gamble, you go for it, you get it, and then they come back down, drive, kick a game-winning field goal. I think that hurts less than the division of should you have gone for it or not.
Well, it's like all the right moves. You're
think
celebrating. You got the 2-point conversion. Everyone's high-fiving and hugging.
Don't get me wrong, it hurts, but at least you can't be angry about your coach at all in that decision because he went for it and it paid off, and you love him for that even more.
That was 40 years ago yesterday. All right. Enjoy the bowl tonight, whether you're headed down to Sokol for UConn and Creighton women or over to Baxter. Omaha's a 3.5-point favorite against Northern Arizona. We'll have that game on 1290 at 6:30, the pregame show, 7 o'clock tip-off. Nebraska, Indiana. The line is now up to 5.5 for Nebraska against IU. Nebraska has lost 7 in a row to the Hoosiers. We'll see. We'll talk about it tomorrow. That's at 8 o'clock tip-off tonight at PBA. Thanks to all of our great guests, from Matt DeMarinis to Brandon Vogel, to all of you, for Jimmy